Could you call to the rap you like? No be poison. Anytime when you call, baby. Could you call to the rap you like? Gaza, we day on deck, with the fresh, I begin on, I be content, anywhere we are there, keep it 100, I want to buy Ruby, see me when the bomb back, no, judge it to nobody but the Monaco, fish plenty for ocean, that session be like Morocco, I go, though you get down now, up, can't you see what you carry, baby, but you rap up, if I did come and you want sugar, I go rock on me, I go keep a rocky giddy, I go keep your company, that Jaluba, Nino Sonic, you come myself for me, no, you want me to give you ratata when you trouble me, why you today trouble me? You know, see me, I don't know my nobody if you couple me, go, ratata, if you come to me, I'm a different like me, but all of my come on me, ginger, follow your lead, you be ginger, and you can look at it, something with ginger, but you always speak out, ginger, follow your lead, you be ginger, and you can look at it, something with ginger, but you always speak, make a put up for your body, no be poison, anytime when you call, baby, could you call to the rap you like, for your body, no be poison, anytime when you call, baby, could you call to the rap you like.
Äntligen är vardagen tillbaka.
Funkar nätet för er?
Vad behöver du uppgradera till hösten? På el...
All right. Welcome everyone to the Court of Public Opinion. Okay. I have Joe Biden with me. Happiness, Simdo, SIM card, Liberty Champion, Otumba DK, Samson, EJ, or is it all? Or is it EJ? I don't know. Thanks everyone for coming on the space. It's the Court of Public Opinion, and we're going to be discussing about the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. But in the meantime, let's hear from our co-host Joe Obedient.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. It's another Wednesday for us. Welcome to the space. My co-hosts, my speaker co-hosts, our regulars. Thank you for joining. Please let's share the space and invite others to come in. And like Ngozi said, consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. Actions like they say have consequences. So we're going to be discussing the consequences, the ones we have experienced, the ones we're experiencing, and the ones that are yet to come. With using Nigeria as a point of contact to all forms of electoral fraud that have happened or that's happening over time across the world. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion once more. Please do well to share the space. Invite people. It's going to be a very long and very interesting discussion. Thank you, Ngozi. Hi, Happiness. Welcome to the space. Also, the space is being streamed on the Violent Space YouTube channel. We'll drop the space, the link, and on the Violent Space Radio. So do well to share for your contacts that are not on Twitter. It's going to be streamed on YouTube and Violence Radio. Thank you very much, Ngozi, and thank you, my co-host and guests.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe Obedient. Joe Obedient, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, because you didn't mute your mic, so I was wondering if you were still there. All right, Happiness, can you give us a short intro?
Hi guys, good evening. Good evening Ngozi. Good evening Joe Obedient. Same do, same card. Liberty Champion and our regulars in the house. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're streaming from. The topic is accepting the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. I'm just going to touch little on some of the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. So generally, every election or every action or whatever it is we do in life, there's always a consequences, whether good or bad. It all depends on what we do, right? And also, it's also applicable to our election. Of every election that we have, there's always a consequence for it, whether good or bad. And it all depends on our decisions. That is how it is meant to be under normal circumstances. We are supposed to have we're supposed to have the consequences or face the consequences of our decisions, right? But somehow, it's sort of unfortunate how we, our decisions are somehow influenced by some certain people who believe that, they're in charge of the affairs of the country, which leaves us in doubt whenever we're called upon to perform our duties as citizens, in electing our preferred candidate. We've had most especially most recently, we've seen several consequences, right, of the electoral fraud, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa at large, right? But in this case, I'm going to focus on Nigeria and the situation we have at hand. It's no news what we're facing, what we're going through, and some of these things are, it's challenging, trying to get back the country on track, trying to reset things that have been some irregularities, and make it normal again. It's challenging, and we will not give up. Still, I have been really mentally exhausted most recently, when you think about the whole thing that is going on in Nigeria today. It's every day we wake up to one issue or the other, right? And these are consequences of the fraud that happened just recently. We cannot talk about electoral fraud and not talk about the role that the judiciary play in this act, right? These people have been accomplices for a very long time in this particular issue. and it has been enabled, it has been overlooked for a whole long period of time, and that is why we're here, we're where we are today. A lot of wrongs has been done and accepted and normalized, and it's getting even worse by the day. And I'm going to cite one of the I would love to start. I would really love to start from 2015. Where we thought a whole large number of Nigerians were thinking they were on the right track, trying to get things right in 2015, right, by voting in this incompetent failure that just left. This incompetent, empty-headed man that just left. But on the contrary, we all faced the consequences of the decision by vast majority of Nigerians. And I'm not going to say this is not a time to blame who voted and who did not vote, but majority of Nigerians voted this man and believed in him, because at the time they felt they were already exhausted and tired of the situation at hand at the time, right? So when he came in, which was through a free and fair election, a peaceful election, right? Everything, the process that brought him in, he turned everything upside down. This whole madness started from 2015, and I said it in our last space. So whatever it is we're facing today, it might be happening before now, but it became really amplified from 2015, right? In the previous past administration. When we look at the impunity that happened, we look at the 2019 election, that when people saw that the first 4 years was a waste, was a huge disappointment, people didn't want him to return. Nigerians didn't want him to return to power. But obviously and clearly that election was rigged, right? And he started by replacing the CJN at the time. He started by replacing the CJ, and that was where the calculation started from, because he knew he was not going to win that election. So he felt that changing the CJN at the time, which was the person that the previous administration appointed at the time, would not favor him. So that was where his calculation started from. They removed him and they replaced him with their preferred George. And then the entire country, nobody said anything. He was overlooked, he was accepted, and then we moved on from there. When the election happened, he didn't win the election. He went to court. The court ruled the case in his favor. We moved on from there. This same man, because of the fact that Nigerians accepted the fact that he didn't win the election, Nigerians accepted the fraudulent act, we moved on from there. He decided to disobey the law, because the same law, the same judiciary were the ones that brought him there. Through the back door, through wrong judgments. Therefore, there was no point for him to obey. Like there was the see finish became amplified. That if a court gives an order, he will not obey the order. I'm still talking about the consequences of a fraudulent election. Court gave an order that Nnamdi Kanu be released on bail. But till today, this man is still in prison. I'm not in support. I'm not supporting any I'm not an IPOB person, but I'm just saying, I'm stating these things based on the fact that the judiciary has been has been enabling these things, and is coming back to them to reflect whatever it is, and judgments they've been passing in the past has been reflecting. It's coming back in turn to reflect on the terrible judgments that they've been passing. Same APC arrested Emefiele. The court ruled that he be released on bail. Till today, what is the fate of that man? Same APC arrested Bauer. He has not even been tried. Nothing. He has been there. Nobody understands. Only God knows why. We don't even know what is the fate of his case. We don't even know what is going on. And all of these things are being normalized. All of these things are normalized. What about Ahmed Lawal and the case of versus Ahmed Lawal versus Machina? What happened at the end of the day? Someone who did not even participate in the primaries. Eventually, the case was ruled in his favor. How? So we cannot talk about electoral fraud and not mention the judiciary. They play a very, very massive role in this act. Now we are battling with the judiciary. We're trying to see how we can get them to get this judgment the right way. And this whole delay is just simply because of the fact that Nigerians, the attention of Nigerians, the eyes of the Nigerians are on them. This case is very, very difficult for them because obviously they want to compromise. Obviously. But we're not going to let that happen, because a man who has a drug case hanging on his neck, money laundering case hanging on his neck, perjury hanging on his neck, dual citizenship hanging on his neck. I can go on and on. If the judiciary has been working in Nigeria, if the judicial system has been working in Nigeria under normal circumstances, Tinubu was not supposed to even be in the ballot in the first place with all of these crimes around him. But here we are today. But my focus is that the judiciary, my submission is that the judiciary has been enablers of electoral fraud. They've been partakers of electoral fraud. They've been contributors of electoral fraud. They've been accomplices of electoral fraud. And now the case is it has backfired, because obviously they thought it was business as usual, right? Go to court if you're not satisfied with the electoral results. If you're not satisfied with INEC results, go to court. It was easy for them to say. But thank God for this generation. Thank God for the coconut head generation. Thank God for this movement, because we're going to change things. Things are not going to be as business. Things are not going to be business as usual. And like I'll always console myself whenever I get exhausted with the entire situation, I console myself and tell myself this is a process, right? It is not going to get better at once. You're not going to get it right today. It is a process. There's a shift going on right now. And I am very, very appreciative of the effort that everyone is making, right? Whether or not they're going to pass the right judgment, there's massive pressure coming out from the obedient movement right now to the judiciary, and they can feel it. It is glaring, it is open, they can feel it. And we will not stop mounting that pressure. because they have been the enablers of this nonsense that we're facing today. I think at this point, I'm going to hand over the mic back to Ngozi to continue from there. Thank you.
Where is Ngozi? I can't find Ngozi. All right. Thank you so much, Happiness, for your monologue. Just a quick one. Give me a minute.
What you are doing is being determined to do it at all costs. Fight for it. Grab it. Snatch it. Along with it. Yes,
Yeah, this was just before election. That's the beauty. Wait, let me play after election one.
I said I will use your people's tears. Okay, I want your tears. Your tears, premium tears. Your tears,
Oh, sorry.
premium tears.
Okay, so this was still before the election. Wow, why is my screen not working well? I don't know what happened though. The enemies are after me.
They will tell you they don't have there. Well, guess what? They will instantly introduce you to an abuki that is standby in the bank that will change money for you. And you come here and tell me speculator or no speculator. But when English lens so when we are ready for the right thing, this market is not accessible. That 700 now wash. Nobody can get dollar at that rate. You still have to go to the black market. So who is accessing dollar at 700? How is it playing at that rate? I thought you said it's an open market. So why are people selling it outside higher than what you are selling it? The difference between the market is close to 200 naira. It makes sense now. Are you telling me that there's still arbitrage going on? People are carrying money and giving black marketers? Because that so makes sense. And CBN governor came and is speaking black that if you know what you are saying, then after what he said, finish. After you found the space, you have listened to what they have said. What is the solution that's still pegging the naira and defending it? And you come and tell me cost of production of fuel is 43 naira. Are we producing fuel in Nigeria? $43. Are we producing fuel in Nigeria? We are importing fuel. Marketers are complaining that are getting dollars at 900, 980. And these marketers should have access to the I&E market. Why are they buying fuel at 950, 900? They will now bring it back to the country, landing cost. How much do they sell it if it's not 750? So what are you telling me about cost of production of crude oil, and how does that correlate to what's my business in this? It is your job. They don't told us today now that they have sold out Forcados, 450,000 barrels. So is it me that went to Forcados and busted it? It's me that I'm doing my business in Lagos. When would they talk where it makes sense, I beg? This all what they talk right now is not making sense. It is not making sense. If you are going to peg the naira, peg it. Don't be telling me policy documents. You have not even implemented anything in the policy document. In the policy document, the $7 is supposed to fall between 500 to 600. This thing is going higher. Inflation is climbing. How do you want to correct it? Who is in charge of our finances? Nobody. Oh, yeah, give him Bobo here. Give him Bobo juice. You hear what he said. What did the man say that is special about it? What does he say that is new? Senator, please carry on. Say what your opinion.
Okay, and if I tell you that that person that just spoke now is the same person.
Yes, premium things. As a Saddam, Aki, Kiki, your tears will be premium. I would add Peter Obi's tears to my bucket, and I'm going to fuel my car, and I'll have a long drive from Lagos to Ekpe on a road that was done by my principal and his boys, and it will be a sweet ride. I said I will use your people's tears. Okay, I want your tears. Your tears, premium tears. Your tears, premium tears. As a Saddam, Aki, Kiki, your tears will be premium.
Oh my God. The whaler. Abi the tears man is now the one shedding tears. Oh my God. Agbado people, this is just the first one. I went to one space like that with my brother account, and the next they are saying, obedience, come out and protest. And I'm like, which one is protest again? But it's all good. It's all good.
We should come and protest for what? For their decisions,
I
for
don't
their
know.
bad decisions. They should go out
Somebody,
and
if
do
you
it.
if you listen to them speak before now, you wonder that say these people have brainy, and now you know that these guys are just being that way. But it's all good. All right. Moving on with the conversation. Let's hear from Simdu. Simdu, please, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Hello, good evening. I greet everybody. Gopo, Alpha, Happiness, good evening. Namesake, Otumba Dike, Jobedient, every listener on this space. We're here again. We're here again to talk about a topic. And I want to thank Happiness for laying a precedent. I won't take too much of our time. Let's go to the topic: consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. Now, what are consequences? I mean, consequences is usually like a result or an effect that has been arrived at, and in some cases, usually an unpleasant one. But just for general context, think about consequence as an effect or as a result of something, and that something is usually built of choice. That something in this sense is choice, and a choice is a conclusion that has been arrived at, or a resolution that has been arrived at after some form of consideration. Now, if consequences are the resultant effect at the end point. If consequence, yes, that's consequences. If consequence na wheelbarrow, then choice be the person with the push am. If you push am go left, you'll go left. If you push am go right, you'll go right. So you see there's usually a yin and yang between choice and consequence, cause and effect. In this case, we find ourselves discussing with respect to elections and electoral fraud. And why are we doing this? You saw Happiness, she laid the foundation talking about how there were antecedents in the previous administration, the same party, but a different administration, where there were choices that were made by the elements of governance then to flout or to uphold the rule of law, right? Whether it is in an Nnamdi Kanu case, or whether it's with respect to, even, let's not even forget, even Showore here, forget all the shenanigans. I'm forgetting that there was a lot of injustice at some point. At some point, if I recall, security operatives stormed the hallowed chambers to disrupt the court proceedings. At that time, what was done? Little to nothing. The El Zagzaki, that was supposed to be, I think the court had granted him some leniency. It was still up. It was not upheld. All that at the time, little to nothing was done, right? And you fast forward to the time where it was a new election cycle, and the same ruling party that had expressed those kinds of antecedents, those kinds of characteristics, began to show their usual way, because they were perfecting the form of illegality, which is the choice they had made. Their choice to govern is illegality, but the problem is the effect. No be only them they touch, now everybody they touch. And now you see that the impunity is matured, is full-blown mature, is mature to a level where it is seen as the norm. And the problem here is that
the choices in this case, the Nigerian, a significant number of the Nigerian populace chose to be actively involved in voting in the election cycle, and their choice was robbed. And and most of them chose to do this because they understood, there was an understanding that if things did not switch, if things did not change for the better, if they did not actively get involved, then they would be left to bear the consequences of not being involved, because that would have been a choice. But they chose to be involved. And even as they were involved, certain elements from this same ruling party decided to institute and force themselves to be declared winners. And all of us here are unified by the understanding that the consequences of letting the person that that claims to be the winner here to be considered as the number one citizen, the consequences are too much to bear. This is barely how many months into that said administration, forced administration, and you can see that the consequences, they are too much to bear. Our dear Kopo played a video earlier where you would see the choice, where you would see that there were certain people that were supporting the APC, talking about how they would drink tears and this and that. And it's a very interesting irony that the same person that was complaining, that was getting ready to drink tears, is now the one supplying tears. You see the world turns around, because the consequences now is not just touching an obedient or a well-meaning Nigeria, it's touching everybody. Choices have consequences all the time. And even in a society where that would make it look like, it is not, there are no consequences for making bad choices. Because let's not get it twisted. That is what the ruling party or the ruling administration has always made it seem like bad choices don't have consequences. But now you can see that it is far-reaching. And this is why we're here, to understand the importance of not accepting, or the importance of what you stand, what the potential of what may occur if you allow the consequences, if you accept the consequences of someone who came through an electoral fraud, through fraudulent means. This is what we're here to discuss. I won't take too much of our time. Let me allow the rest to speak. Thank you. We'll still carry on. By the way, where's Joe Obedient? I hope his house is dry now. I heard there was a flood earlier, but I hope he's all dry. When he comes back, I'll ask him. Thank you very much, and I'll pass over to my hosts. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Shilo. When I saw that video of Joe Bident, God, I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? What is really wrong with this guy? Like, he got that video and did a voiceover on that video. Like, anyways, I wanted to say something. Yeah, two things are involved. Two things are at stake in this particular court case right now. Two things are at stake. We're fighting principalities and power. You guys should not forget that we're fighting principalities and powers, and what they are trying to sustain is that they want to make sure that this new development of beavers, right, they are trying so hard to use this particular case now to discredit it, right? If this judgment should go, if this judgment should go in their favor, I don't think Nigerians are going to believe in the beavers anymore, right? that is how I see it. I just want to bring it to the notice of you guys. I stand to be corrected anyways. If this judgment should go in their favor, they are trying so hard to take us back to status quo, right? So that we will not, the people won't believe in the process, in the beavers. People will not believe in the new technology, right? That is meant to advance and help us in improving our electoral system. And then on our own side, if this case should be ruled in our favor, then there will be a massive credit to the beavers. That is how I see it. And it is a battle between we and them. It is a battle. It is now or never. We need to prove to them that these beavers moving forward, and by the grace of God, Peter Obi gets his mandate, that beavers is going to be improved upon. That technology is going to be improved upon. It will not just be left at the level it is right now. There will be a massive improvement that even the rigging next time will not be as easy as it used to be. Thank you very much. SIM card, you can go ahead and give your submission.
Yes, you're welcome. Talk to me. Auntie Sandra, just give me time. I want to tell you something. I have 1 minute. Okay. I'm a black driver. Okay. Auntie Sandra, I'm living at Ogbafo. Okay. Do you hear me? I'm hearing you. Auntie Sandra, from Ogbafo to Yanaba, you pay 6,500 only Amuri. You pay police each point to 400. Police pay at Eliake, both in front of the station. Police pay at the PA. Police stay at the church gate. Police stay at the Basa. People that stay around that place, they can come and confirm if I lie. Auntie Sandra, total money we pay in a day. So this mobile transaction, using correct bus, we spend 6,800. Government is telling us that they want to cut out our price. We are buying fuel 558 naira in this our Bara area. 558 naira. We are paying this about 6,000 plus. We are paying the liver for who gives the money to 7,000. We as a driver are going with 1,300. At the time that I'm talking to you, I don't already close work because some of my money is on buy fuel, pay Amore. As I'm talking to you now, it's 1,500 left for me, a family man. I'm just telling my wife to go and buy indomie. Let's cook, let the children eat. I have worked since morning till up to 10, this 4 o'clock. Since morning, I'm late with 1,500. You are still telling me not to cut off price. I prefer that this government, they're not taking us as a fool. Now they come out, they tell us, say, they have big this, they have big that. I prefer that all is lie. I prefer that we're dying. After putting pressure, I'm dying. I'm working as if I'm not working. I'm working as if I'm a little man. I'm looking for money to know it and people are nothing to give account. To people are nothing to give account.
You know, they say when it rains, it pours. It is in similar fashion that ripples are produced when you drop a piece of pebble or stone in a pool of standing undisturbed water. The forces of nature have a way of aligning together, either for good, bad, or evil. No matter how you try to whitewash falsehood or illegality, so long as you do not do the right thing by way of retrace of steps, serving punishment for laws broken, or restitution of some sort, it remains falsehood or illegality. To the hosts of this platform, special greetings. To the co-host, Happiness. Special greetings to you. I can't find Joe Obedient again. Hopefully he'll then come back to join us. Greetings to you all the same, Joe Obedient. Sheila Doc, my namesake, I greet you specially. And our guest speaker for tonight, Otumba Dike, thank you for honoring our invitation. Special greetings to you. Greetings to everyone in the speakers section, as well as those in the listeners' corner. Very wonderful, obedient, well-meaning Nigerians. It's always a pleasure, finding myself in the midst of like minds, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone. Okay, when you have someone occupying a position which they ascended not by merit, but through atrocious, barbaric, deceptive, fraudulent means, the chances are that such a one would not be accountable to the people whom they otherwise are meant to serve, because they know full well that the ascension to such position didn't come through the people. Again, whatever they do, assuming they even try to do right by the people, all will come to naught, as the pain will keep lingering in the hearts of the people. They will never see anything meaningful in what such illegal occupants do. This comes back to buttress the earlier point made. No matter how hard you try, you cannot whitewash falsehood or illegality. In the audio played moments ago, you could hear and feel the agony of a struggling father trying to provide for his family. Obviously, not a lazy man, at least by the vivid description he gave in the short time allotted him of the daily challenges he's having to put up with. You see, this experience is not peculiar to this one person alone. This or similar to this is what millions of Nigerians are made to go through due to economic policies of a man and the teamship of his. If you remember that that word teamship, I mean the man and his teamship now, who came to power through dubious means. If the transporter, I mean the voice you heard from that clip, struggling to break even, and for one reason or the other is involuntarily laid off, that also means that the agberos stationed on the road to collect tolls from him will record what I choose to call poor sales. Now, multiply this by tens, hundreds, thousands, or even 10,000s of other transporters, assuming they all leave the scene. Overall remittances from agberos will drop, Abi. That is some of these same people who perpetrated heinous crimes on behalf of their illegitimate head of state, just so he ascended the throne. In other words, they too become hit by the product of illegality. Would they have thought it was going to pan out this way? I'm sure you all know the answer. I mean, we all know the answer to that. When they succeeded, so special emphasis now succeeded in quotes. When they succeeded in putting him there, it felt like raindrops on those of us who stood on the path of truth. But less than 3 months down the line, it is not just raining, but pouring upon everyone, them in particular. So there you have it. When it rains, it pours, which was the exact line that I started off with. Again, I repeat, when it rains, it pours. So this is just one area or section of the economy used to explain some of the consequences of an electoral fraud. And just to give credit to the video that I played, it's actually a recording from a Niger Info 99.3 FM. I know some of us, or many of us, know that radio station. So it was actually, or rather, more like a phone-in program. And there you heard a concerned Nigerian, a struggling father who identified himself as a downfall driver, or more like a Kurope driver, reeling out his ordeals on air. And mind you, this was weeks ago when the pump price of PMS was still sold for around 560 something naira, according to him. So you can now imagine the gravity now of untold hardship that is addition to what it used to be weeks ago. I said I was going to keep it brief because I can see that our guest speaker is present here with us, as well as other well-meaning Nigerians, friends of the house, who will be willing to throw in their two sats. So I'll just drop anchor
at this point, while hoping to come in during the course of this conversation. Once again, I appreciate you, my lords, for welcoming us into your sanctum sanctorium.
All right, thank you very much, Sim. That was a really beautiful submission. Um, like we always say, renewed shege. It's actually, on a serious note, we might, always catch crews about it, but the truth of the matter is that some well-meaning Nigerians are actually suffering from the decisions of certain elites. I would not say, you know, the drug man, the bag man had quite a number of voters, that brought him to power. The people that voted him, I would say that they were not even up to a million, a million votes that he got in the entire country. That is why I said the decisions were made by the elites themselves. It was a transactional process amongst themselves. It's so unfortunate, but here we are. But are we going to give up? No, we're not going to give up. We're here, we'll fall, we'll rise again, we'll stand up again, and we keep going and on and on and on until, the purpose for this course is achieved. Thank you very much, Same Card. Good evening, Otumba. You're welcome to Court of Public Opinion. We're going to welcome you now to take the mic and give us your contribution.
All right. Thank you, Happiness. Thank you, Joe Bident, Simdu, the prof, Joe Bident, Ngozi, Sim Card, Ayodeji, Ankade, the comrade that is in two space at the same time. I greet everyone here on the space. Osemo, I greet everybody. Um, I wouldn't want to make this sound so academical, so I didn't write anything down. At least I just want it to be more flowing. So, like happiness did the best by going back to 2015 so that we can actually understand the consequences of our inactions in 2015, and also see how it has gotten to the stage it has gotten right now. I can remember when I think about these consequences for accepting electoral fraud, I would always remember that 2015, how things played out there. Buhari did not win 2019 because it also happened in 2019. Buhari didn't win that 2019. Atiku actually went to court and he was talking about the digital platform that INEC had in which they transmitted results, and INEC played him for a fool. That was the first time Yakub Mahmoud did something funny, but we are not paying attention then, because if we are paying attention, it's just like after what happened this current election, someone will come and say Yakub Mahmoud will conduct the next election. Believe me, Nigerians will revolt because they now know the type of person he is. And that is where we failed in active citizenship. All right. When I think about places that are suffering consequences of anti-democratic, or like call it electoral fraud, I think about North Korea. North Korea that banned so many things like K-pop, they banned Squid Games, you must clap when the leader talk. The media is controlled. They have like 28 different hairstyles in North Korea. So these are places that have gone deep down, in what Nigeria is starting to head towards. You can imagine that AMCON could go and bring down a billboard that simply states all eyes on the judiciary. Nothing more than that, just all eyes on the judiciary, and a government agency that should be, a neutral and regulatory agency, when to bring that board down. But well, it shows the what happened afterwards shows why I said that the movement
to reclaim the dignity of Nigeria, the dignity of our electoral process. Why I said that this move is the best and is divine, because after this ANCON did what they did, eventually people, the news went further than what those billboards could have done. You go and you browse ANCON, you will see all eyes on the judiciary. Um, if we were to pay for the media coverage, the traditional media coverage on these newspapers, believe me, we wouldn't have the money for that. It's in fact the money that the board, that billboard, what they used to erect that billboard couldn't have even paid for the type of publicity that followed afterwards. So guys, I just want to tell us, because people are making statements like after October, after November, people are setting timeline when they'll be exhausted and not participate anymore in fighting for this. And I keep saying, if you don't keep fighting, you would have to start fighting. It's just something you can take home. If you don't keep fighting, you have to start fighting. There are so many times that the country would have been savaged from this old order, but people decided to stop fighting. And believe me, many of them have started fighting. Many of the older ones in their 50s, in their 60s, because they stopped fighting, now they have to start afresh to fight. So to anyone who is having a particular date that by 27th of September, I wouldn't do this anymore, I just want to tell you, if you don't keep fighting, you will start fighting. So I would round up a little bit by mentioning our what we've been able to achieve in 9 months, democratically, in our electoral process, what our movement has been able to achieve. The first one is that we won an election with an unpopular party. We should not forget the things that it was thrown against us, changing our logo, dime minutes, several things like that. Also, we gave impetus to the audacious. You see, there is an audacious change in Nigerian politics, whether we like it or not. We have given courage to upright people. We have, by our actions and our body language, told them to damn the system. And yes, they've damned the system and nothing happened. People like Justice Azinge, the chairman of the Kano State National State Election Tribunal, who came up to state that his son is trying to bribe her. She made the allegation in open court yesterday, I believe, for yesterday. And you see, this is why I always keep clamoring for female leadership in Nigeria. Because when you remember the names of people that are audacious in the country, you will mention people like Nunez, the one who went against Akpabio. You mention names like Dora Akunyeli. You mention this other woman, forgotten her name, from Abia State, Ete, I think it's Ete or something. You remember
Patricia
Okonjo-Iweala.
Ete.
No, not Patricia Ete. There is this woman that went against a chairman of is it insurance, something like that? I can't really remember her name. But Alex Oti actually met the woman. Okay.
Aruma Hotel.
Yes, Aruma. Yeah. So these are names of women. It's actually women who have been making the daring move in the country. Okay, let's look at this woman, Professor Nena Nayoti, the VC of Futo, that upheld, that refused bribes and intimidation, and stood her ground and announced the rightful winner in Abia State. All right, she was audacious, and he even was audacious enough to brag about it in her welcome gathering in her school. So why I'm saying this is so that we understand that this movement we started recorded so many positives, but are not looking at it that way. People are more focused on that we've not gotten that mandate, of which I believe we can still get if we continue putting the same amount of energy and dedication into what we are doing. Also, we have shaped the international narrative. You can see media stations from South Africa. You can see media stations from all around Africa calling out Tinubu, calling him for what he is, that he's a drug dealer, and also he's an illegitimate president. All right. So we have been able to shape the international narrative, which is something that other people haven't been able to do. We've made good use of the social media and actually put our plight and what is going on in the country, the fraud that went on in the country, We've actually put it in the front line in the international organization. So also we've made ourselves very uneasy to chew because of we are dynamic and we don't have a figurehead. It's very hard for them to to get a hold of us. So simply put, on the topic, accepting electoral fraud has serious consequences, and it also undermines the integrity of future elections because future elections are at stake. Public trust will be eroded because you can't come and start, even if we find another candidate in future, another credible candidate in future, it's going to be an uphill task for you to convince people to come and vote because they would what are they calling it, they would state this formal election and say, ah, we voted, this is what we did last time, it did not work. So guys, I keep saying it's now or never. you know the problem with having an illegitimate leadership, because electoral fraud actually breeds illegitimate leadership. It's the same thing that NG posted in that video. You see, when you vote someone that is illegitimate, someone who comes in through electoral fraud, the person would always prioritize their own interest. They don't see over the needs of the people they are serving, because they know that those people are not the ones that voted them in. They are less responsive to the needs and concerns of the citizens. Like you can see what Akpabio and his mates are doing with the help of the illegitimate president. And also there is erosion of trust in the government. So eventually, I keep saying it, if you don't keep fighting, you would have to start fighting afresh. So it's like you've invested about 10 million already. Maybe what you need to get what you want is like 3 million. But instead you said, okay, you're tired. Believe me, when you come back next time, you might have to start, the starting capital might be 20 million then you won't be able to, cough out that money. So, like I said, if you don't keep fighting, you have to start fighting. Um, I'll round up by just reminding us that we need to evaluate why we are in this. Okay, why is it? Because maybe you are, for some people, maybe it's because Peter Obi or the winner of the election is Igbo. Is that why you are in this? Is it because you don't like Tinubu's face? Is it because Dati Baba Ahmed is your uncle? Is it because maybe Margaret Obi is your cousin? Or perhaps maybe you and Val Ozibo are classmates back then in school, and you're hoping that maybe you get an appointment for it? Because you see, there are reasons. The reason why you do something is would tell whether you're going to sustain yourself, because it's like a fire that is burning. You have to evaluate the reason why you are there. If the reason is something that's going to keep you moving permanently, or if the reason why you're doing this, you're having this fight, if that reason is something that is artificial, maybe something you can gain, or maybe something you hope to gain. Okay, so, but if the reason is for God and for country, believe me, you will never get tired. Even if the reason is for you, your sake of yourself and your children, because you want a better society, then there is no need. No matter what you see, no matter what is being thrown at you, you wouldn't get tired. So I will just have few recommendations, which is like we can do so many things. We can do so many things, so many things. I was even thinking on this Akon situation. I was like, if it's possible, things like this news, you can just tag Kamala Harris and Blinken under such news, so that they will see the kind of repressive government that they are supporting. So, guys, lastly, this is the last thing I'll say here. Okay, see, please, there was a space that was held on the 1st of June 2022. Yeah, 2022. And that space was held by David Hundeyi, and that space is lost since 2015. To me, I believe that that's the most iconic space on the Twitter space, because that space showed a whole lot of things. It revealed a whole lot of things lost since 2015. That space held for over 24 hours, and people came up and they were talking about how Nigeria has affected them. So many stories. So many people lost loved ones. So many people lost their jobs. So many people lost a whole lot of things. So I think whenever you are down, if you remember that space, I keep using that space as a form of encouragement if I am down, because we are all humans. So that space, anytime I remember that space, it draws more strength to me to, to continue fighting for a better society, for a better country, not for myself alone, for at least for my future, my children. So with these guys, I yield and thank you for letting me speak. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you so much, Otumba Dike. Thank you so much for that beautiful submission. I, you know, it caught my attention when you mentioned the space, the Hodein space, where people were talking about how Nigerians have affected them, and all of these things still boils down to accepting the consequences, and the consequences of accepting electoral fraud, right? And in regards to that, I'm just going to break this to you guys. Wike has been appointed as FCT minister. Let me rephrase. Obiakpo Adolf Hitler. Emphasis on Obiakpo Adolf Hitler has been appointed as FCT minister. You guys know what that means. If there's going to be a rerun, he is going to do his job as like he did. He's going to replicate the Adolf Hitler kind of job he did in Port Harcourt, in Abuja, which has never happened before in Abuja. Abuja has always been one of the most peaceful areas when it comes to election. They've never been any major electoral crime or irregularity or whatever it is. I don't know the right word to use to describe it right now. But the calculation is that he's going to be the FCT minister, and in case there's going to be a rerun, he would replicate what he did in Port Harcourt in Abuja. It still boils down to the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. So these people are still ready to kill more people, and my fear is that God, an antecedent will be made. It will be established in Abuja that has never happened before. This is really God of mercy, God. Okay. Please, Dozier, you can go next.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, all. I am just asking myself, why are you worried? Why are you worried that Wike has been made the FCT minister? To me, it doesn't mean anything. First of all, I'm going to start like this. Nigeria belongs to every one of us. The problem of Nigeria is the young ones. Will I say young ones, or will I say the youths ranging from 20 years old, is it 18, 19, 20 downwards, up to 30. Let me just leave it at 30. Down to 39, These vibrant young ones who you will definitely find along the road, trying to do energetic stuff. I'm not referring to men in their 60s, 70s, 80s. How many people do you find along the way these days in Nigeria in their 80s and in their 70s and in their late 80s? They are very hard to find. So the problem, before I even go into the consequences of accepting electoral fraud, I want to open our eyes. I want to digress a bit, deviate a bit to something very, very important. We are the problem, the youths. We are the problem. When you take a look at Nigeria as a whole, you see that the people allowing us every year, every 4 years, to cry, to weep, to complain, to suffer, and to go through all we go through are the people we call elders. People whom you term elders, people whom would always want you to greet them, people whom would always want you to look up to them, people whom you would definitely want you to eulogize them and praise them. You understand? In those days, this type of people I'm talking about are people you 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 actually would want to, look up to, reference them, speak good about them, expect them to pray for you, expect them to show you the pathway and stuff. What do we have these days? Around us, we are surrounded by men whom are supposed to be elders. We are there, but this crop of elders we have around us today are elders who have no conscience at all. People, men whom decide to want to, frolic around with the devil, bathe in people's blood and derive a lot of joy from our tears and complaints and stuff. They all have this privilege of going out of the country. They see how other third world, other first, other countries very well. They come back to Nigeria, and then instead of them to pass on what they have seen in other developed countries, civilized countries in Nigeria, they end up, doing the other, the most despicable thing to that environment, that habitat called Nigeria. It's almost as if they don't really want to see Nigeria succeed. They don't even want you, the youths, to come close to their level. Do you understand? Just imagine somebody like Wike. Just imagine him in your minds. If I meet Wike, somebody like Wike along the road, I would look at him as an elder, somebody I should see and say, good morning, sir. Somebody that I would see and say, sir, please, can you direct me to so and so place? Or, sir, please, I'm having issues with my this, can you put me through? That is the kind of person I would see. But what do we get? We have a man who derives a lot of joy in seeing his brother fall so that he's able to get his daily bread. That's the kind of elder the elders we have around us today. Look at our universities. You see, the problem with Nigeria is something that has, there are a lot of things that have gone wrong in the system, the Nigerian system, that has a root in the Nigerian universities, polytechnics, and what have you. Everybody in the university, the polytechnics, and teaching, all these guys are all youths. Do you get it? Every one of them, those are youths. Surrounded by elders. The VCs are elders. The rectors are elders. Do you get what I'm saying? The professors are elders. The lecturers are elders. Do you understand what I'm saying now? And then they help to groom us and release us to the Nigerian environment, the general society, Nigerian society. You know, look at this school in Calabar right now. Nobody is saying anything much about a lecturer that has been called out. And they said about that man. And they noticed, they found a way of bringing him back again. Maybe he tried to use, powers, superior powers, government powers, and then he came back again. And now there is a news going around that the man is this kind of a person that actually sleeps with the ladies, our young ladies, for max. These are elders around us. These are the same people that we as returning officers. A man who will sleep with his daughter. What do you think is the result or the proceeds of his actions? A returning officer is like, if she's not deemed to the core, if she is a woman who her daily business in the university is sleeping around with her sons, she will continuously, play into the hands of these evil elders in politics. And before you know what is happening, they would actually give power out to whom they want to give, and not Alex Oti in Abia State. But to God who made it possible, there are still few good men and women, in our schools. There are very few. And if we do not take out time from the roots, I'm going back to the roots. I don't want to talk about this topic. I want to go back to the roots. If we don't go back and take our universities one after the other and uproot these professors, uproot these lecturers, uproot these VCs, uproot all of them and put good minds in that place. Look at our NANS, Nigerian Association of Nigerian Students. The leaders of such association as students, they are riffraffs, people who do not know their left from their right. They are not sane people. These are people that cannot defend Nigeria. The issues that we have right now is from those places. Okay, let me just touch a bit on this fraud stuff. This fraud stuff, these consequences of accepting electoral fraud. If we had handled, I'll end with this. If we had taken this and join hands with the Imo State people and remove this Supreme Court governor, I tell you, what has happened would not happen. What happened, Ahmed Lawan would not. And so,
Sorry, I'm sorry I had to mute. Chigozie, you're really breaking. Abidozie, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, you're really breaking. I don't know why, but I think it's best you probably drop and come back and then wrap up in a minute, but you're really, really breaking. All right. Before we go to the next speaker, I just have a short video for us.
But there's another topic, all eyes on the judiciary, which is really what's trending. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending with reactions trailing the removal of billboards promoting the words, all eyes on the judiciary across the country. Over the weekend, the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria ordered the removal of the billboards and dissolved its advertising standards panel by approving the ads sponsored by a group known as the Diaspora for Good Governance. The ads were put up as the Presidential Election Tribunal prepares to deliver its verdict on the petitions challenging the victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Frank Shaibu, an aide on communication to former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, said the removal of the billboards across the country is an assault on freedom of speech. I mean, he's not the only one, Dr. Abati, saying that this is an assault, but let me just take some parts of that statement from Archon. They wrote, the advertisement is controversial and capable of instigating public unrest and breach of public peace, further stating that the advertisement is considered a blackmail against the Nigerian judiciary, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, and particularly the honorable justices of the tribunal who are expected to discharge their judicial functions without fear or favor over a matter that is currently jus pendis. I mean, Dr. Bati, you are the law student here.
Okay, the truth that we all know is that Nigerians are all anxious about the outcome of that presidential election petition.
That is the point.
And what will come out of the 180 days process prescribed in the Constitution for the determination of petitions arising from the presidential election process. So that is why this takes on a fresh significance. And people are saying, oh, if you are pulling down the billboard, okay, all of us have been saying it now, that the judges must do their job without fear or favor, no matter whose ox is God.
100%.
That's the received wisdom 100%. There. So it's a two-way thing. ACON can hide under the fact that, well, it's the regulatory authority, but it's ACON acting under pressure. Did anybody push ACON to come out with this statement? Is ACON's statement a cover-up as a result of pressure from certain interested parties?
Those are very valid.
But as for the statement, yes, the judiciary is under pressure. So as a statement, not many people will quarrel with it. So the relevant questions to raise is ACON acting truthfully? Was ACON pushed? And why? Because this will not even stop people from saying all eyes are on the judiciary.
Oh, it's been trending.
Certainly, all eyes are on the judiciary.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. Still on the topic, consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. This is one consequences. Let's move on to Dozie. Dozie, please, could you stick to the topic and then wrap up in a minute? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Happiness. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I out of anger, I had to digress, But actually the consequences is right everywhere. People can't eat. In fact, I know somebody who bought a 7 million naira car, and then that was last month, and the guy was begging 10,000 naira fuel from a friend. That's one of the consequences of accepting electoral fraud. Another consequences is you have bad leaders, people who are stark illiterates, people who forge their exam results just to get into power. And they don't know what to do about economics. They don't know the right economic policies to actually bring up, and that would better the lives of Nigerians. And even in trying to guard the nation, it will be very hard for such kind of person who has found his way through fraudulent means into power. Look at what happened in Niger State. Just imagine you have somebody as sound as Peter Obi. I don't think that thing will happen. Accepting this electoral fraud everywhere in the country, in Imo State, the issue of Ahmed Lawan, and the issue of Akpabio, the issue of all these things, we are feeling the heat right now. Everybody is feeling the heat. Even those that were behaving as if they are living in the moon and they were supporting their brother, my dear, they are all feeling it. Some of them can't even eat 3 square meal. If they used to eat 001 during Buhari time, I'm sure they now eat 00 half. That's one of the consequences of accepting electoral fraud. It's crazy. It's crazy. The hunger in the land is mad. Mad. And nobody's saying anything. Nobody can talk. Nobody can say a word. So another consequences or another one of the consequences actually of accepting this is that you would continue to see that our youth will begin to, look at the only way to succeed in a country like Nigeria would have to be the fraudulent means. There are a lot of people who are haters of fraud. Somebody like Peter Obi. I'm amazed. In a country like Nigeria where we have a lot of fraudulent politicians, you can still have a Peter Obi. In fact, I wish Peter Obi wasn't even. I wish Obi was maybe a Hausa man or a Yoruba man. I just need somebody who is a hater of fraud. Because the only person that can fix this country actually is someone who hates fraud. And I laugh at every person who still thinks that anything good can come out from this fraudulent structure. I laugh at every one of them. 4 years later, they will see. I don't even think they would want to experience the whole 4 years, because it's going to be a turbulent ride. So we are all in the consequences. This is what we are all facing, and I'm saying we need to join hands together, bring Nigerian students together, put tension on the country, so that these people will find those seats and those offices very, very hot to stay in. And we steer this ship around. I was in a space this evening, and somebody was telling me he's going to put pressure on Obi. It's not about Obi. It's not about Peter Obi. We are all contesting for presidency through the man, Peter Obi. Peter Obi is a privilege. It's an answered prayer to every Nigerian youth. We are the ones suffering these things. These elders are not suffering. If anything happens today, they will run away. They will all run away. We are the ones suffering. And we should hold our grounds strategically and say, if we perish, we perish. Enough is enough. Enough of this fraudulent thing going on everywhere. They have regrouped. They have all regrouped. All the fraudulent people you know, they have all regrouped. And let me tell you, if Nigerian youths don't stand up against these fraudulent people gathering, it will be hell. It will be hell. Nigeria is about to experience hell. Nothing is going to work. Forget all this. In fact, everything you see them saying that they will do, they will do. These are all lies. A fraudulent man cannot tell you anything truthful. Go and write it down. So we are all basking in the consequences. I yield the mic.
All right. Thank you so much, Dozie. Moving on with the conversation, we'll hear from Ayodeji before we come back to our speaker, Otumba DK. So, Ayodeji, have mercy on us. Ayodeji, I don't know. I think your network is bad, so I had to move you down to the listener session. So, yeah, you can request for the mic again. Thank you. So instead of Ayodeji, let's hear from Manuel. Manuel, please, you can go ahead. Manuel, are you
Okay,
there?
can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, the Court of Public Opinion, Obedience, Happiness, and all the speakers and listeners. I won't take much time. I just want to make my submission, direct it mainly to the consequences, direct it to as in this manner, the effects of the judiciary, not or the effect of the judiciary accepting an electoral fraud, because the truth is that overwhelming population of Nigerian voters have not accepted the electoral fraud. We have not accepted electoral fraud, despite that some persons have become complacent and just, they have become weary. Like some previous speakers have said, some persons have said, okay, I set a timeline and say by November, if this is not sorted out, I will just move on, and so on and so on. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have accepted electoral fraud. Actually, it is the judiciary. If they do not do justice, they are the one accepting electoral fraud. And these are the consequences on the entire nation. The consequences for me are for us to look at all the grounds upon which Tinubu should have been disqualified, all the grounds upon which the justice would have been done to this case, that flouting them, what are the consequences? Let's just imagine that they do not uphold 25% requirement in Abuja. That may be small. I start with that because that may be the least of the consequences. But however, it would amount to an infraction of our constitution. Let's look at things like the forgery and of course the perjury cases. That means that all the consequences, even going back in time and going forward in time, all the verdicts that back in time had been, made against people who forged. It means that the judiciary has to review a lot of those cases. Yes, for if they mean justice. It also means that going forward in time, the consequence there is that it means that people will have to submit all kinds of documents, they will just go to diploma.com, make up their credential certificates, and then come and submit, and here they go. It means that the provisions of the Constitution that frowns against that will have no consequence. It will mean that, of course, the likes of all the criminals that we can think about who are Nigerians, who have done things within the country and outside the country, they can, come and take exalted political offices and there will be no consequences. It means that, in fact, see, people who would say, well, the country, they don't want to heat up the country too much. Let's just allow for now 2027. We will remove we will make sure that he's removed. There will be no removal of in 2026. In fact, if we allow this electoral haste, fraud to happen, to is sustained, if the judiciary sustains it, it means that, of course, these people, the way they have, Tinubu has gathered all the grand criminals in the country that we can ever have in the country. They will make sure that all those things that look like small roadblocks from the electoral law, 2022 electoral law, they will change it. They will change it. They will remove everything, like beavers, all those things, IRF that gave them. They will change it. If the judiciary lacks the courage and the uprightness, the forthrightness to hit the gavel the way it should be on this matter, it will mean that by 2027 there won't be need to do any litigation after any election. There will be no need. There will be no need. It will be useless. It also means that, in fact, what I'm going to say now, if anybody doubts me, you should just go and ask Cameroon how it is with Paul Biya. There's a possibility that someone like this, a hardened criminal like Tinubu, you think the judiciary think that after 2 tenures, 2031, he will leave. He will not leave. the third-term agenda that Obasanjo could not achieve, and so on, allegedly could not achieve. This kind of man who with all these kind of baggages, we've never had any candidates in Nigerian electoral history with this kind of baggages. So if the judiciary cannot remove this kind of person now, it means that even after 2 tenures, that person can still perpetuate himself. He can. It is a danger that the judiciary in particular must note that he can. And in that case, it will just be like a Paul Biya again happening now in Nigeria. So that it is only death that can remove him. Because by the time you look at all these machinations, all that, the kind of hawks, political hawks and the criminals that he has gathered, it definitely is not just about the now. He's gathering them for a short-term, mid-term, and long-term plan. So there is serious consequence. It will mean that, in fact, we will never. That is, we may never, if we miss this one. Of course, the citizens will lose the interests, the kind of interests to participate in the electoral process and to make demands, because a lot of them will ask themselves, the demand that we stood our grounds and demanded, the judiciary failed us. Which institution again will they run to? Which institution will they run to? The consequence of the judiciary perpetrating this fraud means that there will be no Nigeria. That's the truth. The summary is that there will be no Nigeria. There may be Nigerians, but there may be no Nigeria if the judiciary does not remove this fraud. Now that it is still having small flesh and some ligament, by the time it is fully formed, with all the bones fully formed, everything, muscles, everything fully formed, by the time you allow it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 8 years, nobody except God, nobody will be able to remove this sin. So the consequences is grave, and the judiciary in particular must note that. I yield the mic.
All right. Thank you so much, Manuel. So Otumba DK, I wasn't here when you spoke the last time, but please, if you can just give us small tips before we move to like the next speaker.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak again. All right, so like I said initially, I was talking about the consequences of accepting this electoral fraud. I outlined many things. The consequence already, the one that are currently facing right now, is the fact that we've produced an illegitimate leader. Okay, and that is a leader. When a leader is illegitimate, you see things that he's doing now is not alien. Actually, he was supposed to actually do these things, as a leader, make bad decisions, compromise the country. It's basically because he was not elected by the people, so he owes no he doesn't owe the people allegiance. You see, the reason why election is very important is that a leader holds the person that gives him that power. He holds that person, he holds allegiance to that person. So had it been that a leader is voted in by the people, like for example, you can see states like Abia State, which is a very good example. That leader owes the people the power that he enjoys. But in the case of Nigeria, and that's why you see the APC supporters lamenting right now, is because their leader, who is the legitimate president, actually got into power through fraudulent means. The story of the election is something that we have stopped, talking about on spaces. So I would just remind us, maybe people, some people actually joined Twitter Spaces after the election, thereabouts, and sometimes we have foreign people listening. So I think we should normalize speaking about what happened during the election so that they can understand the reason why we are always on Spaces talking about the illegitimate presidency and the electoral fraud that happened in Nigeria on the 25th of February. So in the run-up of the 2023 presidential election in Nigeria, tensions were high because the country was facing unprecedented challenges. A year prior to that, Buhari had approved an electoral bill that on paper addressed most of the possible, electoral irregularities, adding BVAS, which is a digital machine with the capacity to, accredit voters, snap results, and transmit both data to the electoral body, which is INEC, in real time. In real time. So this gave people confidence to come out, to vote, to turn out on the election day, which was the 25th of February 2023. And on the election date, by 4 p.m., people realized that something was wrong. And that was because despite there having 3 elections holding that day, only the one election, which was the presidential election, refused to be transmitted through beavers. So, and this was despite promises by the INEC chairman, Yakub Mahmood, who went around January and even January of 2023 and last year to platforms like Chatham House, right? Yeah, Chatham House. Speaking about beavers, and beavers will be used, debunking rumors that people said that beavers would not be used. So when the results were, being announced in the collation ground at Abuja, people were speaking up. Political parties were asking that the process be halted and investigation, be carried out before they announce a winner. But Yakub Mahmood, in his own wisdom, left his house by 4:10 a.m. in the morning, before 4:10 a.m. in the morning, and announced the result by 4:10 a.m. in the morning. Until today, the country has been, ever since that happened, Nigeria has not been itself. The country fell into deep silence after that, and we are still suffering from the consequences of that. So you see, the legitimate leadership we have in the country now doesn't think about itself. And if you research well on illegitimacy in leadership, you find out that it can lead to social unrest, economical stagnation, and even political instability, which are things that we are experiencing right now. Your economy is going to crash because there will be lack of trust in the judicial system. And that's why people keep saying all eyes on the judiciary and asking the judiciary to actually do the right thing. Because if the institutions are not upheld in the country, then that means the country would never recover. So for people who feel that maybe what's happening in Nigeria is going to get better, newsflash, is only going to get worse. So for those who are saying, let me take a break after so time, so deadline, nothing in Nigeria will concern me. Believe me, to concern you more. And then the price you have to pay to fight the system might be one that you cannot afford. So I'll conclude with this and say, if you don't keep fighting, you have to start fighting. Meaning that if for an instance you say, okay, fine, I can't do this anymore, I can't keep up fighting, you will still eventually have to start afresh to fight. And then the cost might be more than now. So thank you for giving me another opportunity to speak, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Otola DK. And that was a really nice one from you. So let's hear from Reform Just.
Good evening. You can hear me.
Yeah, good evening. You
Yeah.
can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. The consequences. The consequences will be too and be very even glaring to the blind that everything that really means anything to this very country will be destroyed. It will affect our education. But it will affect everything that got to do with Nigerians, whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, irrespective of tribe and religion. The consequences is that what happened in Imo State, that somebody that came forward, became the governor, will be multiplied. The consequences is that they will replicate what they did with Lawal, that never participated in the primaries. They will do the same thing they did with Gosula Pabio, that never participated in primaries also. If we want to list the consequences, we can write a book on the consequences of allowing these things to stand, because it will destroy virtually everything. People will no longer believe in hard work. People will no longer believe in due process. People will no longer believe in the rule of law. Nobody will want to go to school again. People will want to cut corners. People will want to go and justify. So the only thing that's going to make anything to people will be, so if I have money to throw around, then everything can happen. The consequences of allowing this to stand will mean that the criminals will now take over Nigeria as a country, and they will do it as they like. But what they don't know is that at the long run, they will end up even destroy themselves. That's what the people who are spearheading or trying to push this now, they don't know that somehow they are setting themselves even up. They're setting themselves up because somehow it will boomerang. And at the end of it all, we all, God forbid for us, will be destroyed. The consequences of allowing this to stand will mean that a Tinubu presidency, by 2027, there's likely not going to be any election. The Tinubu that I know, that I was in Lagos when he served there as governor, will appoint is going to be a councillor in your ward and wherever you are from. He will determine who will be governor in your state. That these are the consequences of allowing what is going on now to stand. And whatever we need to do to make it, for this to come to an end. For me, I think we are still dreaming. Since May 29, in fact, I was in Abuja that day. I wish that thing never happened. I was there to make sure, I could have little or nothing somebody like me would have done, as in personally. I wish it never happened. Left to me, Tinubu wouldn't have been sworn in. Personally. So, the consequences will be grievous. Everything will be destroyed. The consequences of allowing a Buhari to come in 2015 led to so many people losing their lives, losing their livelihood. A whole lot of shit are happening. 8 years after, see where Nigerians are. Our soldiers are being destroyed by stupid boys who are wearing slippers. Our trained soldiers are being killed as if they are foul. People are being slaughtered on the plateau as if they committed a crime being Nigerians. Those things are consequences of having people like this in leadership. John C. Maxwell wrote a book that talks about leadership, and he says that everything falls and rises in leadership. The better the leader, the better the people. The better the father, the better the people in the home. We cannot go beyond who is presiding over us. Earlier today, I was listening to 1mm Space. One guy was talking how they are being treated abroad because of they have a drug baron as their president. So even if you are not in Nigeria, for the fact you carry green passport, you will feel one way or the other the consequences of the person that is presiding over us here. So personally, for me, I wish and pray, like I said, I still think we are still dreaming. And I pray this thing will come and pass very soon. Because everything we hold sacred will be destroyed.
Reform Joss. You sound far from your phone.
I'm not far from my phone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So in rounding up, I don't want us to even to start thinking. I just want us to like look at everything whatever you hold sacred as a person. Because like I always say, everything that is wrong with Nigeria is wrong with Tinubu as a person. Whatever you think is wrong with this nation is wrong with that man as a person. When those guys were singing those Emiloko, Baba nowhere, they shout Emiloko, people think it was a joke. That man is sick. Where he's from, we don't know. His real age, we don't know. His family members, we don't know. The school he attended, we don't know. We didn't know who he was until we start seeing him in Chicago. Where did he come from? So we must not allow this to stand. Whatever that needs to be done to make sure that that illegitimate fellow in Asurok is taken away, let's all well-meaning Nigerians join hands and do it. Nigeria will be gone and be gone forever. But God forbid for us. Let me use the mic.
Okay, thank you very much, Reformed Joss. Thank you very much for your submission. I think we'll have Elite Nos and Ohis DK, then Abraham. Your hands are up. I would go it like this. Elite Nos will go first. Ohis D and Abraham will go next. So Elite Nos, you have the space. 5 minutes.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak here. Great job, everyone. And well done for the consistency and all the effort that everybody has been putting in bringing attention to these all important issues. The question, consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. My understanding of the question is because it's already a given that the majority of Nigerians are not accepting the electoral fraud, as evidenced by the consistent interest in the case, even months after the declaration, keen attention of ordinary Nigerians who normally would not pay attention to electoral petition tribunal cases hitherto. Now, having all eyes on the judiciary tells us that there is overwhelming rejection of the electoral fraud. So my understanding of this question is really that what would be the consequences of when they bring their verdict? Give us a position that suggests that they accept what happened on February the 25th. That means if the judiciary should put a stamp of approval on the electoral fraud that occurred in this cycle, what would be the consequences? And my response will be based on that interpretation of the question. Because if the judiciary should say, yes, this man really won that election and his return as president by INEC is legal and grant legitimacy to him, legal legitimacy, then because it would not change the opinion of the people, since we all know what happened and there is overwhelming evidence that what INEC did declare was indeed fraudulent. The first thing is the legitimacy crisis, which we already are seeing. Accepting electoral fraud can lead to doubts about the legitimacy of elected officials in government. This has been the issue in Nigeria for a very, very long time. And with the biting economic blunders that are going on now, more and more people are interested in this particular fraud being reversed. And political instability and potential unrests. And I believe that it is the verdict of the judges in this particular tribunal that Nigerians are waiting for to decide their next course of action. Because if they don't see any arm of government fighting or standing for them, then they will take up the responsibility of rescuing their own country. And a lot of unrest can result from that. Um, Another consequence, which is a big possibility, is the erosion of democracy. We're already seeing draconian policies, anti-people policies from the government already, and freedom of speech, freedom of movement, basic freedoms as guaranteed and enshrined in the Constitution already being trampled upon. You have people being arrested for crimes they didn't commit, for supposed crimes that other people commit. These are not things that should be heard of in a democracy, but you are seeing that already. So by tolerating electoral fraud, democratic principles and institutions are so compromised, leading to a weakened democracy, and then citizens are no longer allowed to participate. You find inequality and injustice being prevalent, and social inequities will pervade the policy. Um, we can talk about the economic impact that results from political instability resulting from electoral fraud. It will discourage investment in the country, it will hinder economic growth, and international relations with other countries is impacted as well. And these are real issues that affect everyday people. Then you have the question of the human rights concerns, uh, where genuine voices are suppressed through electoral fraud. This violates the rights of the citizens who no longer see themselves as able to play any real roles in shaping the future of their country, and voter apathy will result. I believe that for the massive voter turnout that we've witnessed in this electoral cycle, if the fraud is upheld by the courts, then future elections, those who thought that voting is a waste of time in the first place would resort to the "I told you so" attitude and never participate in Nigerian elections again. This is bad for the future of the country. Then there is the question of the loss of international standing. Nigeria, as the purported giant of Africa, is a shadow of itself at the moment. We have lost our international standing. Countries that accept electoral fraud face this sort of diplomatic isolation. We have strained relations with other nations and damage to our global reputation, which the previous speaker spoke about. Those with a green passport are facing all over the world right now. And civil unrest, protests, demonstrations, and violence will be the means by which people will be able to express their dissatisfaction with the rigged election outcomes. If the judges come up with a ruling that seems to put a stamp of approval on all of the fraud that is glaring before our eyes. And there are other long-term consequences, such as the attitude of the citizens, right, towards the political landscape in years to come. The desire of people who who want to come back to the country to repair and build, changing their minds and no longer coming back. The loss of confidence in education, as people will find more favor with fraudulent means of survival and carrying out their policy. Uh, Certificate forgery, which is the order of the day now, will be seen as a way to go by everyone. And these are real consequences that will multiply if the electoral fraud is accepted. It is crucial for the health of every democratic society to uphold the principles of free and fair elections and to hold people responsible for fraud, hold them accountable to prevent these negative outcomes, because Nigeria does not seem to show any real desire to hold people accountable for committing electoral fraud. If there are serious punishments meted out to those who rig elections, I think that would be a deterrent to others who want to perpetrate that fraud. And also, INEC being treated as a candidate in an election in petitions where they have to come and defend what they did rather than be a neutral umpire who just supplies the evidences for the petitions and respondents makes it difficult. I think those parts of the Constitution that makes this sort of anomalies possible should be reviewed as a matter of urgency. And going forward, the spirit of the Electoral Act of 2022, which was in a bid to introduce transparency into the electoral process, will be completely defeated, and Nigeria will go back decades if this particular electoral fraud is upheld. And these are the consequences I can think of at the moment. To round off, to conclude, I would say that the constitution of every country is written in simple language such that everyone is expected to understand. And that's why in the courts they always say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. That means the constitution is written in such a way that everyone is expected to be able to understand it. So the judges should know that we have basic understanding of what our constitutions say, and we are waiting to see whether there is integrity among them or not. And as much as they would not expect me as they would expect me to understand the Constitution well enough not to breach it or to claim ignorance if I do breach it on any level, they should also expect me to see through any fraud that they come up with in their
No,
judgment.
please, just please round up in 1 minute. Sorry to interrupt. Round up in 1 minute, please.
Yeah,
I've
as
been
a matter of
waiting.
fact, I am done speaking. Just saying that Nigerians are aware of what the constitutions say, and they are waiting patiently for the voice of wisdom from the tribunal judges, and they're hoping that integrity will speak through them at the end of the day. Thank you for the privilege to speak. I'll yield the mic now.
Thank you very much for your submission. No. I would like to add this before I go to the next speaker. For the consequences, there's one very big consequence that we have seen play out in the last few weeks. It's that when someone is elected into office and he's genuinely voted in by the people, he has the mandate of the people to keep. The mandate is to deliver good governance, and delivering good governance starts with people you appoint around you to deliver on your behalf. You see, the fraud we have there in the presidency right now is using the ministerial position, which is the most important set of appointments he's going to make, to settle scores, to settle satisfaction, to tell people, thank you for delivering your states. Thank you for doing this. It's not, if you look at the ministerial list and the portfolios that just came out, you would notice that it is not a list of competence. It's not a list of people based on competence. It's not a list of people based on performance, past performance. It's not a list based on integrity. It's a list that is almost runs parallel with, runs like a mirror of the presidency itself. A Milocon list. The list has people that have been governors that deliver their states, recommendations from people that deliver their states and their electoral what they call it again. So it's not a list that even speaks to our mandate. You have a presidency that does not understand that for an economy to move, there has to be an economy for the economy to move. The people are not happy with policies, and instead of adjusting or meeting the people halfway, it is telling the people, do what I say and do what I say as I say it. There are no alternatives. You have a government that is moving into power, a government that was illegally forced on us, entering power, and instead of trying to fight one of our biggest problems, corruption, it has turned a blind eye like there's nothing like corruption. A government that has entered knowing that we are having insecurity problems, security and insecurity problems, and it's acting like those are not really a problem. Those things are not happening. A government that in its first 100 days has said so many lies, has put out so many lies that we have lost count. The ripple effect, we're feeling the immediate effect right now, but I know this thing, the ripple effect, will come in maybe 6 months, in a year's time, when all these things start, when the ripple effect of all that they are doing right now comes. And I wonder if we'll have a country then. Okay, I'll move on. I'll move the mic. Okay,
Sorry, Jobident. Can I just make an observation though?
Oh, go ahead.
Right, sorry about that. But did those governors, did they deliver their states though? Did they really deliver their states? Because I believe that the current illegitimate president, he saw the results. He saw the real results, the actual results, and he saw the failure and the incompetence of these people. He saw how scandalously he lost. I believe he did. So
Yeah.
so
They
this is
deliver their states. I'm not meaning winning. They rigged their states. That's delivery. They rigged their states and won. They won. They at least on the INEC fraud list.
on that basis, I believe that he believes that he has no way to answer or be accountable to these people because he knows they didn't vote for him. They didn't turn up for him in the first place. I mean the Agbado community, because in terms of the real votes, he must have seen it and he must have been sorely disappointed in terms of how much he spent and what results he actually did see.
Yeah, thank you very much. Enlighten us. I think the next person to go should be his DK. I think one speaker dropped off. So.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I think I saw this kind of.
Sorry, before you go, it's 5 minutes, and just watch. Once you see my hands are up, I'm telling you the time is up. Continue. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay. All right. I will just go straight to the point, even though I would have loved to explain what I'm about to talk about, because it's kind of like an unpopular opinion. Now, I think many of the speakers have already said what is going to happen, and they are all right, including what Edith Not said. In fact, this very today happened already. I think the perspective I want to pass is that these things are not new. Everything that is happening now has happened before in this country. It is because of our lack of, should I say, historical education that makes it seem as if strange things are happening. Everything that is happening now happened in 1983, and the country went into chaos. In fact, it happened in 1964. And for those that know the story, that's what led to the Wild Wild West. It was first of all Wild Wild West before Biafra issue now came up. So the West was already agitating before Biafra now came up, and then we now went into civil war. So all these things have happened before. So all those things even give us antecedents for us to know what the kind of things that could actually come up in the worst case scenario. I'm talking about the worst case scenario. Even if we say, okay, these people, okay, first of all, this is a war on this country. And like I've just told us about history, what we are having now is a battle that our grandfathers didn't win, our fathers didn't win, and right now we are fighting. And if we don't win this battle, even if PO is reinstated, it doesn't mean that the battle will not come again in the next 8 years or in the next 4 years, because the system is still there. And PO alone cannot even change the system. This is even best case scenario. He is brought in, but the legislature is not on his side. The judiciary is already what it is. So this battle is still going to continue as long as this system remains. And we cannot count on these people to actually do the right thing. So what am I talking? What then should we now do? For the worst case scenario, we know that no matter how much you protest, the worst that can happen is that we'll go into violent protest, and those that will suffer are going to still be us, because it cannot affect them. The worst they'll just declare state of emergency, and we cannot even expect PO to call for protest, because if he does that, they can just arrest him. We see what happened with the assassination attempts. It's not until we get to that point that we'll now know how serious these people are. So my point is that we need to actually drop our sentiments and understand what we are dealing with. This is someone who wants to be in power and will do whatever it takes to remain in power. And we, as a nation seeking revolution, we are divided. And a revolution cannot work with a divided people. So what should we do? My opinion is that we should look for something that will unite us. And what is that thing that will unite us? Our common interest, which is our desire for prosperity and good governance. You see, you may hate on the Aguadorians and all of that, but the truth of the matter is that they actually chose Tinubu for their own interest. They actually thought that his coming to power was going to be for their benefits. You may say, oh, they are being selfish or something, but that's just self-interest. Even though he's not delivering as they thought he would, but that strong reputation that he had was just what they needed, because just feel like they need someone who is very strong. And Peter Obi doesn't really seem to give them that feeling. So this thing is just self-interest. So if we can remove our sentiments and stop making it a matter of right or wrong and make it a matter of interest and come down to that level, we'll find that we'll be able to unite ourselves at this grassroots level. Since we know that it is interest that is driving everybody, why not, call the Arewas, call the MBLF, the Middle Belt Forum, call PANDEF, Delta, Nile Delta Forum, call the Indigbos, call the Biafrans, call the Afeniferes, the Oduwa Republic. Everybody wants the country to move forward. And then we decide on how best to restructure the country to actually serve everybody's interests. Because even till date, the Northerners are still looking for oil. Because we know that they already have a system that is incompatible with the rest of the country that they want to operate. So everybody actually has something to gain from Nigeria working. The only people who thrive on the division of this country are those who are already in government and those who are waiting to join. That's why I'm pointing towards the ethnic and already deep-seated religious institutions that are on ground. Because politicians come and go, political parties come and go, but we are the ones that are still there. So if we can drop all the sentiments and actually try to bring all these people together, even if it's in stages, we'll try to meet with everybody. What I think we'll end up deciding is turning Nigeria. I've said this before, but it always seems like it's always an unpopular opinion. I don't know why. Restructuring Nigeria from being a federal republic to being a confederation. And what does that mean? It means that every unit will be responsible for itself. And this is not something new. We will all be sovereign states within the Nigerian Confederation. An example is the situation between Sudan and South Sudan. South Sudan was broken out of Sudan, but not completely, as many people think. They actually have a treaty, a deal. So technically, they are a confederation. Sudan gets a part of South Sudan's wealth, oil wealth. They get profit from because they even have some of the infrastructure on their own side of the border. So that is what now was if they were able to use to reach a peaceful agreement. And with that, when there is civil war in South Sudan, it does not affect Sudan. When there's issue as we are having now in Sudan, it doesn't affect South Sudan. Why? Because they are separate countries. They have their own military, they have their own systems, their own constitutions, everything. But yet they have that economic sharing. And that brings us back to Nigeria. We know that many areas in this country, especially in the north, they are not able to survive on their own. It is this federal allocation that they survive on. So why not just meet with these people? When we meet with these people, we say, okay, allocations will continue the way they are with the current status quo, no matter which unit breaks out or however the territories are formed in the confederation. Whatever allocation you get before, you will still get. But you run your system, I run my system. If those people, because whether I would like it or not, the Northerners are the ones who have the majority say in any issue in this country. If you can actually get these people to do this thing, because these people are they are beyond just they're not just as I say politically aligned in one direction, if I just say, like say all of them are APC or something. So now actually supported Obi. So now actually support other party members. Their interests go beyond just the party in power. The Arewa group has been running things, whether it was PDP, whether it was the military, whoever, they've been running things right from time. So if we can actually get them to that kind of agreement, I don't think there's any of them that will kick against it, apart from those who are waiting for their own Emilio Con time in the government. But the businessmen, the cultural leaders, all of them would be on board. That is what I think from the rhetoric they've been making, they would be on board. So, but where the work is in actually getting people who can get to these people and bring them together. Because, like Lagwaja said, we will take back leadership of our country not by force, but by sense. If we think that we can fight these people with gra, we'll just be being delusional. Because these people have shown us over time what they are capable of. I've thought about any worst case scenario you can think of. They have an answer to it. If we say we want to go on the streets, burn things, destroy houses, it has happened before. That was happened in the Wild Wild West. And we tried that one even during NSAS. We saw how things came out. They will just act at first as if they don't know what's happening. But when they say it is getting to them, you just see what will happen. That's when we'll see trigger happy policemen on the road. We'll see the soldiers on the road. There's literally nothing we can do to change the situation from within unless a miracle happens. If these people vote, if the courts go the wrong direction. And the history of the courts has actually shown that this is the direction they always take. So that is my submission, that we should actually think of a way to actually win the war. And the way to make it such that he himself, Bat, will accept it, is that he can stay in power as long as he gives us our country in this format. And that's what Liberia did. Charles Taylor was ravaging the country in the name of bad government and trying to take away corruption, just like he came up. And when it was time for the elections, they actually voted the Charles Taylor in because they were tired of him killing them. The West didn't do anything. If you think the West will come to your rescue, we are just wasting time because the guy has already has alignment with them. So that is my submission about this matter. We should think of winning the war instead of just fighting the battle to fight another battle another day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ohis DK. This your name sound like doctor's name. Thank you very much for your submission. Yeah, okay. So we have Abraham, Prince G, and Ifari. So we'll go back in that order. Abraham Ogbejunwa. Please, space is yours. 5 minutes, please. And watch out for me, please.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. You're loud and clear.
Okay. Good evening, all obedience and women in Nigeria. Thank you so much for everybody's suggestion and all the effort everybody put together to move this mountain. Like the last speaker person said, we need to think on how to win this battle. But the consequence of winning this battle to unite us together is one of the huge things that we like this cannot finish it. What am I saying? There is one adage that said, if you think that you have money and material that you are better than other, you are one of the poorest person on earth. Tinubu as a person that being an illegitimate president today, don't even have that kind of thing in his back of his mind. He came to cash out from the system. If you are thinking of how to unite this country together, you need to rewrite the constitution. Is it ready? That is number one. Everybody are running for their own interests. If you look at the ministerial appointment that the man appointed people, like the second person that said, it's just like a compensation to all of them, nothing more. Somebody like Wike, somebody like Fetus Kiamu, all of them, Dela Alake, all of them are just compensation. The consequence of what they are doing in few years, in few months to come, nobody is going to school. Nobody is going to do anything. The robbing and the stealing will become the order of the day. And when this thing continue, what is going to be the outcome of the new generation? That is, people that are going to come behind us. If we don't get it right today, there is no way we can get it right again. Our forefather has fought this battle. Our father has fought it. Came to our own time. And I believe what we are doing today are shaking them little by little. Even our principal got to the power and he cannot do it all. At least the example will be there. Nigeria entered civil war, they came out. When Obasanjo took over power, things changed. This thing has continued and has been existing before we came, before the democracy started kicking on in Nigeria. The angle that people don't feel it much is because there is no hunger then. There is not too much rising of inflation, food, and all that. I bet you if those things go down, that everybody can be able to afford it, nobody is going to think about how Emiloko is doing in the system or whatever they are cashing our money or taking away our money. But let me bet you, those people are human beings, especially our judiciary. No judiciary is buying fuel 140 naira or 185 naira. All of us are inside this mix. I also understand that if they do the right thing, it is their own benefit. Even though their children are in abroad today, they have relatives that are still in Nigeria here, even including them. So the earlier the better we arrest this case and we'll stop this nonsense. Because if we allow it to go, what Emiloko is doing now, if I do this, if I don't plan well, everybody shout they will go. If I do this every day, if you see what happened now, initially before in Lagos, when the fuel price rise up, you discover that no car on the road, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you see people start coming back because nobody said anything. It has become a normal thing in their system that whatever we do, once they shout or when they pause and they don't see any action, they will go back. Okay, initially, when the pump price was high, he was saying something that, okay, there's going to be a palliative of 8,000 now. When people complain and say they are going to review it, up to now, do you hear anything concerning it? If we don't take this thing by force, believe me, no, another way around I want to do it, it's not going to work. To me, if we want to call everybody to get, okay, Agbadonian that we are saying, are they educated people? I see intelligent people in this platform. That's what impressed me to join. I see a well-meaning, people that have heart to bring something to the table. Eventually, when they did the election, I was fed up. When they declared Baba, I was fed up. Now, what is going to happen? What is going to happen next? Who is going to withstand this battle? Where are we going? And you begin to see that, okay, everybody were relaxed. Nobody talked. Everywhere were quiet. But eventually, they set up this platform. Everybody start to talk. whatever they say, it goes viral. Forget that we are not in government today. But if the whole thing start to backfire or we start protests and things begin to go another way around, they too cannot stay in this country and say that, okay, they are going to sit down in their National Assembly there to discuss anything. Everywhere will be on fire. And I believe they are going to change their mentality. We are too soft to the point that they are pushing us to the wall. But we are turning back at them. We say, Bible said it that kingdom of God suffered violence and violence take it by force. Nigeria have come to that stage. Before Liberia settled the fight, war here and there, they deploy Nigeria soldiers go there on several occasions before everything settled. My brother, I'm telling, we're meaning Nigeria. We are not saying that we are going to protest first, but wait for the outcome of the judiciary. And I believe that judiciary will do the right thing, nothing more. Because the ball in their court is overpowered and already. They were pressurizing from every angle, but they will do the right thing. Nothing will kill them to doing the right thing. And nobody is pressurizing them or threatening them to do the right thing, but I'm sure that they are going to do the right thing. Please, I use the mic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. They must do the right thing. They don't have a choice. We stand here, we mount. They wait for them to do the right thing. Okay, we'll go to Prince G. Then Prince G, welcome to the speaker section, Dr. Shilo, PhD Shilo, Shilo PhD, Liberty Champion. Welcome to the speaker section. Okay, Prince G, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. Hashtag Kupo. Well, the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud is to pave way for more abundance of electoral frauds. That's just like you tell one lie, you need more 10 lies to tell another lie to cover the previous one. So the consequences is that they will give more room for corrupt politicians to keep accepting and keep doing more of that electoral fraud. Now, for the citizens that will be accepting more of electoral fraud, they will end up having more bad leadership, more negative rulership in the land, which we see as a bad omen. The consequences of accepting an electoral fraud is something that the citizens will have a total disengagement, lack of interest to participate in election and not trusting the electoral system. We will be left with no option than to say, so help me God. So what I'm trying to put together is this. If the judges fail to do the right thing, they have put the country into a worse situation that criminals will have more confidence to tell you they killed and they destroyed and nothing happened. So why won't they kill and destroy more? Politicians will tell you, I don't need your vote, boldly in a broad daylight, that I am going to win this election, or we are going to win this election, irrespective of whether the masses vote or not. Reason is this: because they believe that they will upload a blank papers, selfies, they will take selfies in their bedroom, in their restroom, in their hotels or whatever they like, and they will paste them on the IRF, and the judges in the courts, in the high courts, Supreme Court, or whatever court, will gladly look over them and look for technicalities to declare that court case in favor of those criminal politicians. So it will be the highest bidder takes it all. So it will get to a point that we will no longer have democracy. Rather, we'll have selectocracy to select, and there won't be any election further because close to 90% of the citizens will not see any needs to come out and vote. So that will be the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. And I will say this, I have long think about this and I say it clearly to surprise you people. The silent challenge we have in this country is the body language of our security forces. The way they treat the citizens and the way the citizens believe on their actions. That is why you see that protest does not yield the adequate results. Because while you are trying to protest, they always feel that they don't have rubber bullets or always feel that they don't guide the people. Rather, they will accuse you, the real innocent person, that hoodlums is going to hijack. Meanwhile, the politicians are the ones sending the hoodlums. They will not go after the hoodlums. It's those citizens who are innocent they go after. Because all man to protect his own belly end up eating one another. And finally, why the politicians always cooperate and always get their way is because majority of the citizens in the south, in the east and in the north always have different opinion when it comes as to reason to come together to protest against the bad government. If the easterner is protesting, probably the northerner will say it is Boko Haram, they cannot protest. When the southerners are trying to protest, probably the northerner will say that is your own, it's against my religion. So before you know it, conflict of interest is always the bargaining measure of the ordinary citizens that end up destroying the unity of us achieving our aim to have a good government in place. When a Yoruba man is in power, majority of some few Yorubas, or rather few Yorubas will say, since my brother is in power, I don't want to sabotage his government, I will not protest. When a northerner is in power, majority or few of the northerners will say, my brother is in power, I need not to protest. Let me support his bad government, hoping his 8 years will finish. So those are the things that give rise to all these negative consequences of accepting an electoral fraud. Let me not talk much. Let me hang the mic and allow others to speak. That's just my little point. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Prince G. Thank you very much. We have no hands are up. Okay. Oh, he's DK. You've spoken before, so just do 1 minute so we can go to the other speakers.
All right, thank you. I would just like to respond to what the previous speaker just said. You see, Prince just mentioned exactly what I said. Conflict of interest. That is why I made reference to an interest that unites all of us. NSAS, for instance, as much as we think it united all of us, it didn't. I remember I was in Niger State at the time, at one time during the NSAS protest, and the emir of where I was staying made a law that nobody should try NSAS in his area. As in, that place was so peaceful that if you stayed in that place without going, you would never believe that something was happening in the entire country. That's why I said the interest that will unite us is this fundamental interest, which is self-interest. And if we appeal to self-interest, we will get everybody together. The previous speaker talked about how we're going to change the constitution. As I said, we won't involve the government yet. It will be the grassroots level. These are the guys that have the power to prevail on the government. If they see that the South is no longer antagonizing them, because that's what has been causing issue, these divisions. If they say that the South is no longer antagonizing them, we actually reach common ground. Bro, it's once we meet, they are the ones that will meet with Tinubu and say, okay, this thing can actually work. You find that of course, not that he wants to remain in power. So what we just say, okay, you will remain in power as the head of the confederation. That's a nominal position. Just like him being in charge of ECOWAS. He cannot go and dictate what Gambia should do or what Ghana should do. And I gave the example of Sudan and South Sudan. So that's why I said, if this battle is already a losing battle, we've already seen them bringing out the banners of all others on the judiciary. Would you have expected that? See, these guys have moves. This guy had a government in his pocket before he even came into power. Is it when he comes into power that we think that he will just blow breeze and he will change his mind? Of course not. Power is what he wants. So let us use appeal to that. use that to our own advantage, like the Liberians did. Eventually, he will leave. But our goal is that when he's leaving, he shouldn't have left. He shouldn't live with us as in, he shouldn't destroy us during the time he's here. That is just what I'm talking about. Because our fathers and our forefathers, they worked with sentiments. They were first of all hoping, they were living on hope, tolerant. Then when the thing now reaches their neck, they'll go and protest, burn houses. None of those things changed anything. That's why I say we need to remove our emotions and actually deal with people on the level that they deal with themselves. You're talking about someone who was a drug lord. You're talking about bag men. These guys don't deal with morals. They think in self-interest. Speak their language. Let us actually change strategy. Speak their language. Bro, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Is it just me?
No, no. Let's
I'm
go
done
to the,
speaking. I'm done speaking.
yeah. Thank you for that. Let's go to Shiloh Doctor. Then no, no, wait. Let's go Liberty Champion. Shiloh Doctor. More respected ladies. Lady Liberty. Then Shiloh Doctor.
No, don't worry. Make Shiloh doctor talk. They always they like to hear in submission. I go steal some ideas from him.
PhD, go ahead.
No, I've been one. Anyway, let's not. I won't be too long. Thank you. So since we're on the issue of reeling out the consequences, a lot of people have pointed at a couple of things, but my own addition to that is what the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud is that you would have a group of people who do not even have any respect for rule of law or due process. You would have what is a government that is constituted of what is known as a kakistocracy. And a kakistocracy is a government by the least suitable or the least competent set of people. And it's funny because I just looked at what Jobidian and what you posted here by, I think it was Osas that was giving some of the ministerial lists here on the Jumbotron. And you can see the names. I like the fact that the person took time to, state the person's name, the allocation of the ministerial allocation, and the profession, the actual profession of the person. We're saying things like Festus Keyamo, aviation, and he's a lawyer. You see that's mismatch. Now, this is the mismatch that we are seeing, right? But to combine with that is that if is that someone that was, that is competent, someone that has the credentials to back up adjusting into whatever situation they find themselves in, that will be fine. But this is a clear situation of just appeasement and settling scores at the expense of an entire country. This is what you are dealing with. And you think that Hadi Sirika was a big thing. I can tell you that what you are seeing here is going to be much worse, much worse than whatever the past administration was doing in terms of allocation. What you also have, when you have a kakistocracy that is comprised of people that don't know their head from their tail, that will lead to a situation where you would see a government being looked at as a pariah, as an outcast, as a laughing stock on the international stage. Because when your mates are discussing real issues, you will be lost. You saw what happened when this same person who was vying for power got to France and could not say a word because he just simply could not keep up with what was going on. These are the risks. And all this is happening. It is not a risk at one's own corner. This is a risk of someone who has decided to force himself at the helm. And then what this also presents is a moral conundrum, a moral confusion, where somebody who came through means that were anything other than democratic is now wanting to send troops to his neighboring country to institute democracy according to him. This is the moral confusion. And that sends signals down the pipeline to say, if this person did it this way, then why do I need to work hard? These are the issues we're dealing with. All these people are playing with people's futures. So all this should actually prick one's mind. Anytime you think that, okay, you are not necessarily what you're doing is not making any headway, or is not necessarily dealing with any yielding any fruits, you think about it again. If you allow something like this happen, if you allow something like this to continue going on, then that means you're accepting this group of people. You're accepting them to do whatever, and whatever they do, you should have little or no say, because you did not do anything to stop them. This is just my 2 bits on it. I'll hold on for here before I'll come in a bit later. I'll leave the mic to you, Joe Obedient. Thank you.
Thank you, PhD Shilo Doctor. Liberty Champion, please, space is yours.
Yes. I think for me, hello everybody. All protocols observed. My warm greetings to you all. I think the consequence. Am I audible, please?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Thank you. I think for me, the consequences of accepting an electoral fraud will be the increased suffering and agony for the people, for the citizenry. So everything will the reality on ground will only become multiplied many times fold. The suffering will increase. And this is why, as I've advocated previously, it is not very pertinent. I know we have a lot of awakened Nigerians, well-meaning Nigerians back home. You know, it is not very pertinent, and people are doing things, and which is why we must, our people back home, with the support of well-meaning Nigerians in diaspora. I'm just careful about not using the word obedient, because this now transcends party ideology, your party affiliation. It includes all those that hold and believe in the obedient ideology, better described as well-meaning Nigerians. If we accept this, or more so if the people on ground allow this impunity to stay, Nigeria will be a country where so many will lose hope. The people back home will suffer. There will be chaos, there will be lawlessness, there will be lack of respect for due process, there will be oppression, continued marginalization. It's going to go beyond ethnicity and tribalism now. You know, there's going to be extra renewed shiggy. And I think it's important that the alternative reality of our people, Nigerians at home, not sitting on their palms, is what should actually bring about the energy that is needed because there is power in the voice of the people, in the action. And the funny thing is, this comes to mind in what Ohi said. I'm not totally ascribing that we have a way to support or accept, God forbid, the court rules Tinubu, legitimate, which is a reality. It can happen. So what will now be the consequence? How will Nigerians react to this? What action will they take? And in terms of being very smart and astute, I get the wider point you're making. And that is something each one of us abroad in Nigeria, we really need to go and reflect deeply about. Because we must remove emotion, we must remove sentiments. We just have to see things for the reality of what they are. And we have to start asking ourselves serious-minded questions. If the worst should happen, how are we going to react? I know we want to stay very positive, which is why I take my modeling from Peter Obi. Because I'm asking myself, and that is something I reflect privately in my own mind. If Peter Obi is confronted with a different reality result to what he's expecting, how is he going to react? So, and I think this is a soul-searching question we all must really ask ourselves, which is to say, all eyes on the judiciary, every other action we are taking, we must not lose sight of them. The continued social mobilization, education, grassroots enlightenment, because at the end of the day, the people is more than the people in power. And if enough awareness, education, enlightenment is out there for the people, the ordinary man, they will bring about a change in this illegality, and that is the truth. So how do we get to that point is the big question. How do we sustain the continued education, enlightenment, information dissemination to, like on one of the other spaces, Ms. Barrier said, keep people hungry and angry enough so that when there is time to react, it will be spontaneous, it will be organic. So for me, I think it's about time. We have to face the reality. And it could also be that if the news is as we are expecting it, that it goes the way we are all praying and wishing and wanting, how are we going to manage that also? Are we thinking well? Because these are the things that we need to be preparing for. It's a long battle. It's a long road. So there are going to be many, many consequences of, it's not that we're accepting an electoral fraud. I think it's about how do we now deal with, God forbid, the reality that an electoral fraud is foisted upon us. So the choices we make, the actions we'll take, will come with implications, both for those in Nigeria and for those at home, and for those in diaspora. So it is important that we think through our actions seriously. And there is value in Oisi's remark about appealing to the self-interest of the different interests, hegemony, group, class, or whatever you have it. But how we navigate that complexity is what we really need to think about. It is very important because this is a long battle. It's a long walk. Yes, P2B can get his mandate, but how do we now begin to unravel from that? Or God forbid, the mandate is denied. How do we now begin to unravel from that? So I yield my mic. I'm sorry if I've left it on a cliffhanger, but there's positivity in everything that is happening. There is awakening, there is enlightenment, and there is, renewed hope. So I yield the mic. Thank you.
Mr. Joe Bident, please don't be offended. Let me quickly come in for something, please. I plead for this, please. Let me tell you guys the real truth of Nigerian problem. The real problem is not the citizens. The real problem is partially not the politician. The real problem is our security architecture. I'm talking about the police and the military. They are the one who is holding this country backward or stagnant. The reason is this. When Donald Trump had his own issue plus or minus to a large extent, if you can remember, Donald Trump knows very well that no matter how he wants to wield his power, the military in the United States, the police will never go against what the citizens are in terms of trying to take orders from him to harm or threaten or do anything to the citizens. So the body language of the military and police defense in this country is what the citizens are looking at. If the citizens are so sure and they know that our military system is so transparent and they respect the life of the ordinary citizens, irrespective of whoever is in power, that they will never hurt or follow any wrong decision in any form to make illegal arrests, threats to lives or threat to citizens, that the citizens are so sure of what the police and the people in power will do. I'm telling you, when Nigerians feel aggrieved to a large extent, they will come out to protest, knowing fully well that the security architectures will protect them in as much that they are not destroying lives and properties. They will be with them. And that protest is things that are going to change Nigeria setting. But Moku talk truth. How many person won't come outside? Could no say protest go dey normal protected by police or something. Fear there because even as I talk for this place now, you go say because maybe DSS not gonna carry you this and that because they are no longer doing their real job of knowing how bandits and killers whatever are in Kaduna and in Zamfara. All those issues of how they block the military personnel, they kill them, ambush them. DSS will never get all those information till the next 600 years. But it is people who are sneezing in their corner, DSS will go and pick on Twitter that Fashola has written. Different, so they now become jobless as slaves that are just wandering up and down to feed their own masters. That is why you see that the country is lawless. No strong military president can stand aside. Yes, this is my decision, and even though you are the one in charge, you can sack me, but I cannot go out and kill innocent people in Lekki toll gate. Highest I can go there and protect them. In as much none of them carry gun to shoot at us, to harm us, which will protect them. If you can see personnel that will be doing such, Nigerian citizens, both literate and illiterate, young and old, will come out and be protesting. But my brother, even Satan said don't relocate in Nigeria. Nigeria don't mad finish. Now crazy country. Even Satan don't relocate. Say these people there, their problem and not they my hand. And now because of Nigeria, God they delay to even hand the word because if they give hope what I look what I go feel even change because Nigeria is a crazy country. That's the truth. If you go out today that you want to protest, you are scared. Except you have connection, you have money in case you are being arrested. People will release you. Lawyers are also waiting to collect money from you that you were trying to protest legitimately to see if you don't pay lawyer fee, this and that. Nobody will come and stand for you. So my brother, I forget the country. Even Satan said no go fit rule and reach like this. Satan will rule it better than what we are seeing. Now mad country. I use the mic, I beg.
Thank you, Prince G. Take it easy. Well, sometimes I beg to differ. Not be our security, now leadership. Now leadership they control security. Or it's court of public opinion.
Oh wait, you said na leadership. Say Donald Trump will control those people for that, make they go destroy US. Say the army, they go hear them, they go listen to them and police. If na leadership, US made Donald Trump try am before if he go walk. See my own side, my own argument.
It's leadership. The leadership builds the system. The people can change the system, but like I said, it's the court of public opinion. Every opinion counts. Thank you very much, Prince G. Okay, we have Will E, another Dr. Archie. Doctors many today. Goat, welcome to the space. Otumba DK, welcome. Kashika, I've been trying to get give you the mic, but it's not going through. Maybe you cancel your request. I'll send you the mic. Okay,
Come
so we'll
on.
be
Oga obedience. Sorry, no verse. I just dey look this thing. They say Bello Matawale na Minister of Defense.
incompetence ministerialist with that now.
My God. Hey, Father is God.
They carry accountant go do minister of power. Carry the
Hey,
insurance person to do
Oyetola.
minister of
Why
transportation.
did it to
Daily
Oh,
Alake,
my
solid
God.
minerals. You know,
My,
even say you carry geography, somebody from geography, not even geology.
how
Daily
accountant
Alake.
won't give us power now? Hmm? See,
Oh,
it's okay. It's no problem. By the way, your house don't dry.
the tears, you know, say now after my house dry, I can't go mop up. But this morning, comrade called me and said, "Guy, we need to flood the streets. We will not flood inside my house. So now my area everywhere flood."
Wow. I beg. Try dry, but no verse, eh? And we never experienced it, but well.
No, I know dry. I want part to go upstairs. These tears cannot finish. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's have Will E. Then we get one doctor when Bible verse they bring up. Then after Will E, Dr. Archie, I'm trying to round up the space by 10:30. So let's do 10:45. And it's not 10 o'clock at the end, but let's do 10:45 from Will E. Please go. 5 minutes. Will E, can you hear me?
Sorry, did you call me?
Yeah, I said go ahead.
Okay, all right, thank you. Liberty Champion for her submission, because like we talked about 1MMC on when I was there giving these points on making this an obedient thing, and like she just pointed out, we need to go beyond seeing this as an obedient thing. It affects all of us. The PDP, look at, where is Dino Milai? The guy has gone into oblivion, to tell you the power that these people are wielding. And the thing is, no matter how much we cry about it, no matter, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, go ahead.
yeah, okay.
Okay. No matter how much we cry about it, no matter how much we wish about this thing, that's not going to take it away. Use a cue from the Bible. When God talked about him being able to do exceeding abundantly above what you can ask or think, he said it's only according to his power at work through us. He was not going to come down from heaven and do anything. So if we are thinking that one miracle will happen, or maybe like Abacha, let's just remember Abacha was in Nigeria, where was still there. See, this issue of interest, if you follow, it's not that many people on history of nations, if you really follow history of, you find that nothing I'm saying.
Hello. I don't
think
know.
we lost him. Will Ish can go.
Yeah. Willie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, before I've been connect the phone to my car, but it's I don't disconnect. Yeah. So how you doing, Joby? Then. So respond to, when Prince, was it Prince or someone was speaking and talking about our military and police or whatsoever, and was comparing, them with the American system. You see, this is the same thing we're talking about, having a strong institution. America has been able to have a solid institution whereby the president of the United States is, how do I call it? The president of the United States is not as powerful as the president of Nigeria. The president of Nigeria is one of the most powerful, nation leaders in the world. Talking about leading a country, right? So, I don't even the based on the kind of powers that is vested on, you know, on the Nigerian president. It's hard to even call the Nigerian president a president. So I prefer to call them emperors. You understand? So talking about our military do this, do that. No, you can't do that. You can if you try doing anything, the kind of power the president wields, you'll be thrown out the next minute. You understand? We saw how a chief justice of the federation was, thrown out overnight with cooked up allegation or whatsoever, just because a president wants to win an election at the court or something like that, or a petition or whatsoever. So it's crazy, So these are some of the things that is before us. So when we talk about institutions, we know what we're talking about, and that's why some of us are clamoring and fighting that someone who doesn't have, some godfathers or some kingmakers attached to him, someone like P2B, coming to be the president, so that that person can be decisive, you understand, in setting up, in getting these institutions working. Because at the end of the day, the kind of institutions we have in Nigeria makes it very, very impossible. So it boils from the head. You understand? It makes it very impossible, for anybody at the top to be held responsible, because you don't want to lose your job the next minute. So that's the thing. So that's the kind of country we have, So you can't compare this. It's like, comparing oranges and apples or whatsoever. America is far gone when it comes to, strong institutions. So we are totally different. So that said, one thing I would really, really, I keep emphasizing on this, because I understand we're pursuing this petition, and by God's grace, based on the kind of things we have in front of the court and whatsoever, based on our, the evidences and whatsoever that's been put forward there, the judges' hands are tied and everything. So, and not their hands are tied. Their hands are tied, of course, in trying to play corrupt. To say here is, at the end of the day, one thing, when all this thing is said, one thing we must fight with the last drop of our blood is making sure that nobody, no president, no candidate after an election should be inaugurated when there's a petition at the court regarding the election. No candidate. So because look at what happened with Tinubu now. You understand? He's gotten an undue advantage, if not for the kind of baggage he has and the, too much evidence that is against him now. It would have been a walkover for him. Because now when you inaugurate that person, you give the person an undue advantage over the rest, over those who petitioned against him. And then now you have power over the military, you have power over this, you have power over that, and you have, you have ministers here, have this, that, change. No. So that's one thing we must fight for. We must push, our senators, our reps, and whatsoever we can do. In fact, if it means carrying placards and going on protests or doing rallies or whatsoever, when that time comes, we must push that thing be added in the constitution, that we can't continue in this error. It's a terrible error. So we can't continue in it. It has to change. Nobody, after election, if there's a petition, then that petition must come to an end, since all the petitions or whatever they have at the tribunal has a time limit. So they must wait for that to, the court to decide. who the true winner is before an inauguration is done, so that no one has an undue advantage over others, like Tinubu has right now, though he's going nowhere with it because it's too much evidence against him, and we see how this ends eventually. Thanks for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Willie. I'll go to please if you want to speak on the queue, please have your hands up so I can know how to arrange the queue. Dr. Archie Comics, if you're available.
Good evening, brother Joe.
Actually, where you go right now?
Sheila Doctor. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Court of Public Opinion. Otumba Dike, I see you. Liberty Champion, Anka Dede, Semo, SIM Card, Happiness. Everybody, every member of the family. I greet you guys with the spirit of solidarity. I think I have been on a little bit of some break because of work. And for some reason, I decided, to pop up today because I had a little bit of time to join my family meeting, which is Court of Public Opinion, because my family. And I've been listening to the conversation. The listening value of this conversation is impeccable. I think I joined in when the speaker before, my sister Liberty Champion, was speaking, and then Liberty Champion, and I've listened in all through since then till now. And a few things caught my mind, Joe. Um, Joel. One of those things I think is number one. I would come back to the point Liberty Champion made, which I think is the crux of the whole conversation. She said she's sorry for leaving it hanging, but very importantly, I will say that what she spoke about is that very important question we have been unable to answer as a people. But I'll still touch on that. Before that, I have listened to a couple of ideas float. One of them is the fact that our security apparatus is what has been the missing link or the weak link between um, the development of Nigeria, as it were, and why we are where we are, in the words of Usibadi or Sibanjo or BDSM, as you would like to term him. It's not the security apparatus, and I explain to you why. The Nigerian security apparatus has been like this for about 60 years. We've seen multiple levels of revolution happen in this country. Will I make it look like, and I mean, I wouldn't blame anybody because it's your recent history that you remember. But we've had Nigerians move against the most draconian levels of dictatorship in this country. And they've moved very hard over the years. And so while yours, or the one you can remember, is NSAS, and it was an immense revolution, you have to also realize, and I mean, this is a teachable moment I had in this, my small hiatus. I was one of those folks that kept on saying things like, we are not our ancestors, we'll fuck you up, you understand? But in hindsight, our ancestors were badass. Our fathers were badass. It takes a lot of guts to move against a military dictatorship of IBB Babangida led by Sani Abacha. And you move against it with all amount of vim, such that the government is so confused that the head of government relinquishes government, takes a private jet, and flies out of the capital. It takes a lot of vim. That happened in Nigeria. It takes a lot of vim for people to move on the Supreme Court. I mean, we like make it look like what we are facing today is just this thing happened in the days of Shehu Shagari. Go and read the history, where the country was in a conundrum, confusion. There was a Shehu Shagari, there was I think Nnamdi Azikiwe. There was this conundrum where the Supreme Court had to interpret the standing of Nigeria with regard to elections. It happened. Nigeria. People were moving. People were stamping on the government. We've seen this happen over and over and over again. But the one thing that has been constant has been our madness with leadership. One. our ineptitude of security apparatus too, but also the will of a Nigerian to persevere through hardship, which is the most important part of this conversation. And so when we're talking about consequence of accepting an electoral fraud, the most important part of that conversation cannot be the leadership, because our leadership is trash. Yesterday, today, I wouldn't say forever, because we are hoping to see a new Nigeria. Our security apparatus has been trash. Someone woke up one morning and set up what we have today as DSS. Go and read Nigerian Police Act, read the Nigerian Police what established the Nigerian Police Commission. A leader of the country set up a private police for himself to be able to use and enforce laws. That is what is the DSS. They are not acting away from what their setup was. This is exactly why they were created. The Nigerian police force is the Nigerian police force for a reason. This is not the United States Police. This is not the the London Metro Police. No, this is the Nigerian Police. It was set up by the colonial masters to chastise and keep us in line. The military inherited it and took it down. Our democracy took it over because we've been reinforcing and metamorphosing madness from democracy to military and to what we have now, which is not a democracy and it's not a dictatorship. It's a morphology of its own. The constants have been there. The problem has been the Nigerian people. Why did I say the Nigerian people? And I mean, it would look disingenuous to look like I'm blaming the victim for his own woes, because that's what it sounds like. Because whether you like to believe it or not, the Nigerian citizens are the victims in this situation. But the problem has been the fact that how much of this our generation, I'm not talking of the generation in the past, because when MKO Abiola's election was stolen, it's Nigerians in Edo. This same Edo. It's not today. Disobedient movements blowing up in Edo. It's not today. Bendel was like this. They've always been like this, radical like this. Nigerian history didn't start today. The protest that actually wanted to usurp the IBB, it started at that very level. Edo, Bendel, Ife. Those are the places that have been the hot points, hot beds of Nigeria. But away from that very fact is the point which I'm trying to make. How important, what is the cost? And I think that was his message Liberty Champion was trying to drive. How bad do we need this? How bad does the Nigerian person need this? How bad does the Nigerian person think that this madness has influenced it? Is this a matter of life and death to the Nigerian people or not? Because that's always the question that is unable to be answered. When it was a matter of life or death to Nigerian youths, when we literally saw in a video that someone was maimed in, again, Edo Delta, Bendel Belt, Nigerians galvanized, forgot Islam, forgot Christianity, forgot the East, forgot the West, forgot the North, and marched against the Nigerian leadership. It always is a matter of life and death. When MK Abiola promised prosperity, MKO progress, Abiola. I mean, when we knew that that was our hope to progress, and some mad detector wanted to take it away from our mouths, Nigerians marched across the country. The same way we were heralding Kano was the same way we were heralding in Calabar. The same way we were heralding in Edo was the same way they were heralding in Rivers, because it was a matter of life and death to Nigerians. So the question, and I think that is the most important question Nigerians have to answer in the next few hours, is how important is the Peter Obi mandate to the Nigerian people? Because it's okay that we did something unimaginable. We galvanized ourselves. We fought in our lines. We raised the campaign in a matter of 9 months and almost usurped the establishment. But it was a battle. The war is the fact that you have to take care of you have to be able to unseat the establishment. And the establishment is not Tinubu. I keep telling people the establishment is not APC. The establishment is everything that has made people who do not have a enterprise but are making money from the Nigerian state. That thing that is making an $1 snap picture with a known criminal, that thing that is making Dangote go on inauguration and be speaking to a president while bending down, a billionaire, the richest man in Africa, that very thing, we have to be able to, and the only way to unseat it is if all of us come together as a people and say, enough is enough. It's a life and death situation. If you kill me today, another person will rise up in my stead. And I've seen those things happen in different sectors. I've seen it in the NSAS movement. I've seen it, at least I was a child or younger, when it happened in the MKO situation. I've seen people march against the Abacha execution of Ken Sarawiwa. I've seen it happen in the Nigerian history. The question is this one of those times? And that is a question we have to answer. That is a question the movement, this obedient movement, the movement has to answer. That's a question all our influencers have to answer. That's a question every single conglomeration has to answer. Because it's not enough to, gather around and keep saying, we are going to recover our mandates. We are going to court. All eyes on the judiciary. All eyes on which judiciary? Are you expecting the judiciary to suddenly become saints? Because all their lives they've been thieves. So they should suddenly become saints overnight? Oh, you must be thinking, Nigerians and optimism. We must be very optimistic to think that people who have been criminals before will suddenly start being right. The optimism is wonderful, and I encourage optimism. But when reality sets in, you will know, and I will say this, and I'm saying it on public record, that, and like I think our Ebo Dele Farotimi used to say, it is just going to be mere optimism to think the Nigerian judiciary is going to sit down and declare on facts, based on facts, that like we all know, the election of 25th February was stolen, and that the result is that stolen election belonged to somebody and it should be returned. That is going to be mere optimism. And as a Christian, I encourage optimism. But it is an outlier. It is not what we should ordinarily expect these people to do. No. It is going to be vain optimism too if we think that suddenly the United States and United Kingdom will forget their strategic interest, which is our oil, and start supporting us against the hegemony that has promised to give them all their strategic interests as far as they allow them. Hold on to their stolen mandates. We are just going to be optimistic, which I encourage. But then again, it is not the natural order of things. Until we are able to establish that what the natural order of things is that the judges that were kicked in by the DSS, sent by the Buhari regime, and wiped out of the sensibilities, leaving this very class of judges, are judges that would always answer to the establishment before they answer to you and I, except you put pressure on them. Those judges will always answer, because again, the establishment, they stand to lose more from the establishment than they stand to lose more from Nigerians. Why? Because what are you doing to make them feel like they should be in danger? What are you doing to make them feel like if they make a wrong verdict today, there is going to be trouble? What are you doing? What am I doing? What is the movement doing? What is the campaign doing? Those are the questions we should ask. Because if we're incapable of establishing those things, we are all going to be doing, it's just what we do in Christianity. When we say, oh, God is going to answer prayers. Your miracle is coming today. Amen. Your money is coming today. Amen. And what work have you been putting in to make sure those miracles are established? Because that's the situation we are in right now. Vain optimism. And so I'm summarizing by this before my brother Joel comes and cuts my neck. While I commend the people putting up the billboards, because you need to understand how much sacrifice, and I know it's diaspora people, how much sacrifice it took those people to raise the amount of money they raised through their hours of blood and sweat to put those things there that the government has gone and peeled out and sacked people's fathers out. While I commend those people, Nigerians abroad and in Nigeria have to ask themselves a question. How important is this? Because while we are here gathered in a space today, there are people holding meetings, trying to find the best way to deliver the information and the news that mandate wasn't stolen and it is going to be let loose to the person who is currently sitting in Aso Rock. And that is a fact. As we speak, They are looking for the best way to lay that information out there. And so, if we think it's billboard and flyers that is going to put them under enough pressure, sufficient pressure, to be able not to do that nonsense, okay, maybe that is what we'll be doing, because it has to be a collective effort. But I know, again, I revert back to our fathers who weren't cowards, unlike what we used to put on our faces and our t-shirts, that we are not our ancestors who will fuck you up. Our fathers understood this thing when they were marching against IBB Babangida after stealing the mandate of MKO. Our fathers understood this thing when Abacha made a unilateral move to hang Ken Sarawiwa. Our fathers understood this thing at different levels, multiple levels of activism against the establishment, different levels of establishment. And whether you like it or not, please don't allow anybody. I know it is okay, it is savvy for us to say these things. He's a drug lord, he's a this. See, whether you like, ask people who are old, ask them Sheila, them Liberty, all of them with this. So ask the people who have been here before you if they're a genet. See, Tinubu is not as scary as Sani Abacha. Don't allow anybody lie to you. Don't allow anybody lie to you. And I'll say it again. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not as scary as Sani Abacha. Buhari is not as scary. Buhari served under Sani Abacha. What we are seeing now, people saw worse. People resisted it. People did their best against it. We are not facing a regime where, because they were shooting at people in protest. It's not today, it started. It didn't start in 2020. The difference is that by this time around, we now have visualization. Social media has brought it into the fore. Go and listen to Fast talk about his father, how they were busting into houses and kidnapping people's parents and locking them up forever. Someone opened a prison in Lagos State. Buhari, let's not say someone. Buhari opened a prison in Lagos State, an island in Lagos State, where he was locking political criminals until someone went and discovered that prison and blew it up. And then someone wrote about it and pasted it. It was Wole Soyinka that wrote about it and pasted it. A lot of mad things have been happening in Nigeria. We need to decide as a people what is more important to us. Is our livelihood. Because, I mean, I'm tired of sitting down and it now looks like I was expecting Tinubu to make Fashola the minister of justice and this. He wasn't going to do anything other than what he's doing today. You think he was going to do anything differently? He wouldn't do anything differently. I don't expect him to do anything differently. I wouldn't expect even Osibanjo to do anything differently. It is the establishment. It is what they do. You cannot get into that position the way they've gotten into and not do things the way they are doing. The ministerialist is not abnormal. It is what is abnormal to the Nigerian populace. It is what I expect. What is abnormal is our behavior concerning this stolen mandate. That is the abnormal thing. Whether we like to tell ourselves the truth or not, that is the abnormal thing. Shout out to the people who have been doing the activism since the election was stolen till today. But the abnormal thing is the fact that cars are going past the courts. People are going to their businesses. Naira is increasing every day. Fuel is going to the sky. And we are debating Ngelale standing on the television and lying. It's like something is wrong with all of us in a country. So again, is it important? I don't think it is. Is it life and death? I don't think it's a life and death situation. Will Nigerians survive? Maybe Nigerians will survive. Yes, we've survived worse. So we'll survive this. Let's not make it look like there is something that is unusual happening. Nothing is happening that is unusual right now. Because if something unusual is happening, I know how Nigerians react to something unusual happening. Nigerians are not reacting right now like something unusual is happening. Tinubu is not doing anything unusual. Because if Tinubu is doing anything unusual, Nigerians, I know the way Nigerians react to anything. Abacha was locking people and dissolving things, and Nigerians reacted. I know the way Nigerians react. So again, has it gotten that bad for Nigerians to react? Or are we just paying lip service to whatever is going on? Because I hope that someday it gets as bad as that, so that we'll react. Or let us just, retire to oblivion and hope that after Tinubu, the most prolific thief, the next dispensation, steals the election because it becomes an Olympic of thieves. Yes, going forward, after this election has been called, and maybe Tinubu stays in the government for another 4 years, making it 8 years, the next dispensation will be who can steal the election at the level of accreditation. Because it's transmission they stole this election. We are going to be debating and finding new solutions to steal the election at the level of accreditation. And so after that one, we will find a way of seeing the election at the level of voters. And then we just spiral and keep cycling through. I don't want to hug the mic, even though I've hugged the mic too long. But that liberty champion question is the question I'm asking you to go on with today. When you go to another space, go and ask that question. Ask that question. Was the stolen election so important to us? Is it a life and death situation? Because it doesn't seem to be a life and death situation. And until we do it a life and death situation, we are not going to put pressure on Tinubu long enough for him to relinquish that position. He will never, he won't. If he see, will he relinquish it? If you did not know that people are going to die, if you did not know that your own life was on the line, you think you relinquish it? Are your two people, I'll end by this. Two people said things. I'll end by this. Ayodele Fayose said something on national TV. He said, see, let me tell you, Tinubu will be president. He'll be sworn in. Nothing will happen. And we people that are going to court, he will not give it. If it's me, you think I will be president and you will go to court and I'll hand over government to you. That was Ayodele Fayose after the last election. The second person, which is the most painful one to me, was Rotimi Amechi, who made some revelations on TV. And at the end of the day, he ended up saying, against my natural instinct, I'll say it, nothing will happen. To this, yes, even admitted in that very interview, Peter Obi won the election. Yes, the youth rallied around, and Peter won the election, and then the election has been called to another person. The best Nigerians can do is what they did. That people rallied around and won the election. Would they do any other thing? They won't do any other thing. Nothing will happen. Heaven will not fall. Nigerians don't get angry. Nigerians don't fight back. Nigerians are not aggressive. Nigerians are cowards. We do not fight. We do not do anything. The only thing is we don't know that we are afraid of them. So because they're afraid of us, they will sit back. Nothing will happen. My friends had advised me not to talk about this thing. I don't even know why I'm on television talking about it. Nothing will happen. He will stay in the government. Nigerians do not react. It's the problem of Nigerians. And that's the truth. We do not react. Or we do not react with equal and proportionate force. We do not react with equal and proportionate force. That is the consequence of accepting an electoral fraud, that we have never reacted in our generation with equal and proportionate force. And so let us take what we see until we react with equal and proportionate force. It's not the security apparatus. At this point, the leadership has always been crap. It's not the leadership. It is you and I, the Nigerians involved in this quagmire of a madness. I think I'll relinquish the mic at this point. God bless you guys for listening.
Okay, thank you, Archie. Archie, I don't know if I heard you well, but I heard you say something like Tinubu will stay for another 4 years.
Well, I said until we react with equal and proportionate force, Tinubu will stay till 4 years.
Okay, I didn't hear
Oh
that
yes.
other disclaimer.
Oh yes. The problem is the reaction.
We are already reacting with equal force. Proportionate is just going to end up with a tie. Equal is going to end up with a tie. We see how it goes. I choose to disagree with you saying Nigerians are cowards. Nigerians are not cowards.
No,
Well,
I didn't say that. It's Rotimi that said it. Rotimi
oh,
Amechi. It's not me.
okay. I
I'm
thought you were
quoting
quoting
people
yourself.
here.
Okay. I won't follow you drag more because
I think it was paraphrasing him. What Rotimi was saying in that interview.
Okay, so we've had Archie. Thank you very much, Archie, Dr. Archie. I have to put the doctors and the PhDs. We've had two doctors speak here, even more from they hide their PhD and their doctorate. Okay, we'll have I think we just have about 15 minutes to the end of the space, and I think Goat is the only person that hasn't spoken before we round up. Goats, are you available to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. To be honest, I didn't even want to speak. I just wanted to listen. Somewhere at the back of my mind, I know we're saying eyes on the judiciary.
Can anybody hear him?
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Yeah. So somewhere at the back of my mind, with eyes on the judiciary, with everything that's going on, in the country, um, I was still hoping and I was still hopeful that until Pio reclaims his mandate, based on what outcome comes out from the court case, I was still a bit hopeful that Tinubu will come in for the time he has to at least change things around. Because let's be honest, under Buhari destroyed that country for 8 years. Is it security you want to look at? It's abysmal. Do you want to look at the economy? Buhari literally ran the economy to the ground. Is it in terms of standard of living? I think now there's even no more three classes in Nigeria anymore. It's either your upper class or your lower class. And the lower class is just 5 minutes to the grave. That's what the lower class is in Nigeria. Like, people are on the verge of survival. So I was hopeful at least Tinubu will elevate a little bit of that suffering from the average Nigerian. I had a little bit of hope. And then seeing his ministerial lists, which were the same set of looters, which wasn't surprising. And then now looking at the portfolio given to these guys, of all, seeing Bello Matwale of Zamfara State, that bandits have repeatedly fingered him out, singled him out, and say, look, one of our source of funding comes from the governor of Zamfara State. Those boys that were kidnapped, Bello was still the one that was the forefront of negotiating with bandits. It's a no, it's a known secret in it's not even a secret, it's a known fact in Zamfara State. And under this man's watch, was it over 200 villages or communities were under the control of bandits? And then to reward him, he gave him a very precious position at a time when security confidence is at an all-time low. You reward him with such a sensitive position because your loyalist or it worked for you during the election. And I looked at it and I'm like, you know what? I don't think there's any hope for Nigeria. I think now Nigeria is in an abusive relationship. You cannot leave. You have to stay. The country, in my eyes, the way Joe Biden and the way I see it, I think all hope is lost. The country we know as Nigeria is long gone. I'm looking at the CBN. There's been a lot of things that I've been looking at throughout the whole week that I've just been looking. I don't think the average Nigerian know how bad things are. I'm looking at the CBN consolidation and consolidated financial statement and how Emefiele, a CBN governor, was using the foreign reserve as collateral to get loans from JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs to the tune of, I think, $7.3 billion. And no major news outlet is saying anything. If we default on that repayment, the CBN defaults on that repayment, now calculate the value of that plus interest. What would be left of the foreign reserve? You still have another $6.3 billion as part of your committed obligation to foreign investors that you are still owing. Put that figure together, Joe Biden, it's close to $15 billion. And nobody is saying anything in the country. Then go to PMS. as well. You're selling PMS at 700 and something naira when the average man minimum wage is 30,000. Some family fill their homes. You can't see constant electricity you cannot provide. The only hope the average man has is to use generator. I was speaking to somebody and he said, look, the amount of fuel he buys every day is between 3 to 5,000 naira of petrol a day. And I was doing that calculation. Multiply that 3,000 times 10. That's 30,000. In a month, that's 90,000. Just for petrol alone, in a country that the minimum wage is 30,000. Is that not madness? And one Senate president is somewhere ordering 1 billion naira worth of vehicles, and nobody's saying absolutely nothing in the country. If there's a BBN Niger space now, I can guarantee you have more than 1,000 people will be listening. And I still agree with that earlier submission. I think it was Liberty that said. I still really don't think that Nigerians actually know what is at stake. Now I just feel like there seems like there is even no hope. I don't even think 8 years, even though you put Peter Obi there for 8 years, I don't even think Peter Obi can even solve even up to 50% of the deep-rooted core problems we have in the country. The floating of the forex, I don't even want to even go into that one. You are floating forex. You're saying figure is at 7 something. I'm going on SendWave to try and send money. I'm seeing 9 something. I'm wondering, who are you deceiving? Are you deceiving Nigerians or are you deceiving yourself? I was speaking to somebody this evening. Is meant to do importation of what is it called? Toilets, bathtubs to Nigeria. And he was very honest about it. It was like when he came to the UK, the gentleman that was building his house over back there in Nigeria already gave him the money equivalent in pounds. He took that money and he bought something else in pounds with that money. To say, okay, when you are ready to start doing your plumbing job and you need the bathtubs, I have my bookie, I'll change money and then I'll import it for you. So it comes when it's ready to go. Now he spent that pounds equivalent, and now Buhari, God forbid Buhari. Buhari is long gone. Tinubu comes, hijack forex up, foreign exchange, by almost double the price. And now his problem is where he's going to find that money to buy those toilets and bathtub that he already has that contract for. Now he has to pay double from his own pockets. These are the kind of policies. Do you know how many businesses right now have promised people, because they are foreign material, they import it from abroad? People that have collected money for contracts, you double the amount of forex. How are those people going to survive? I was listening to real estate, was it not 2 days ago? The guy was like, do you know how many real estates in Lagos that his company has already collected money from people and say, oh, we'll deliver 5 bedroom in this place, in that place? It was like, but with the cost of everything up, that they cannot even deliver that price. And they cannot go back to the customer and say, look, can you top up that money or double it or at least give us 50%? That is what a lot of people are going through right now in the country. Bro, I don't even know the way forward. Me living abroad, I feel the heat. I feel it as well. I really tried my best during this last election. Forget about APC. I'll round up by saying forget about APC, forget about Tinubu. For once, I tried my best. I went back home to vote and we called people and said, look, because I felt like I could control things with my hands. I didn't vote in Lagos. I went back to my state of origin to vote. I felt I had a bit of influence. I could sit down, speak to the youths like, look, Tinubu is not going to come here and perform any magic. Tinubu is not, and he's never going to be a brand new man. He's the same man he was yesterday, the same man he is today, and the same man he will be tomorrow. Do not expect any magic to come out from this man. Tinubu, as a man I know, is the opposite of what Nigeria needs. When you talk of cabal, that is him. When you talk about suppressing a state, that's Tinubu. When you talk about eating and siphoning the state resources, that is Tinubu. You cannot expect to vote a man like that. And you go to church and one pastor say, pray for your leaders, and you pray. God will come from heaven and change Tinubu's mind. And then Tinubu will do the right thing. I say, bro, that's not going to happen. If you want to vote, at least vote the right candidates. But I still saw some Nigerians still voted that same. You can't take it away. A lot of people still voted for that same APC. Either based on tribe, religion, or maybe their benefits in one little way or the other. I gave it my best shots. The people I feel for are just the collateral damage, and which are some Nigerians that did the right thing, but unfortunately, they are just collateral damage. We just all have to suffer it together. The ballot snatchers as well, we all have to suffer it together. The ones that carried guns to kill youth coppers, to rig election, will suffer it together. The only hope now for the country, I have to say, is the judiciary. And I pray and I hope they do the right thing. But I'll say, Tinubu, a person I know, Tinubu is not someone that will easily give up that seat. Tinubu will never easily give it up. So, my brother, sorry, I know it feels like I'm ranting, but I'm just here. I got home, I'm just in my car to even get out and seeing the ministerial list, seeing what happened in Chukuba, in Yashiro, in Niger States, just seeing a lot that's just going on. It just feels like a huge darkness has covered the country, and I it's just hopeless. I don't even know what to do. Even though I'm in diaspora, I can bring some of my family. I can't bring all of my family, you know. Some will have to remain and face it, unfortunately. But my aim and what I aspire for Nigeria is a country that works for everyone. Not a country that works for a select few, but a country that works for everyone. Nigerians need to feel and know what it feels like to be human. And I think a lot of Nigerians are actually missing out. Some children born will never know what good governance is. Some people have been born and died in Nigeria and never know what good governance look like. The only thing we have to do is to work hard and make this country work. It has to work. Jackpot might be the only hope for some people, but look at the stats on how many Nigerians actually leave the country. It is less than 1%. Less than 1% of Nigerians are able to migrate every year. That tells you some people will leave and die in that country and never experience what good governance looks like. So I'm praying, I'm hoping, that there's some sort of silver lining somewhere, somehow for the country. But right now, it is looking so, 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 so bleak. Economic front, security, standard of living, suffering. The list just goes on and on and on. You know, I, man, Jay, let me just yield at this point. God bless and enjoy your evening. I'll just wrap up by saying that.
Thank you, greatest of all time. Wahala deal. Una submissions like waiting they give hope, waiting they kill hope. Anyway, it's a court of public opinion. I think we've exhausted all our speakers. Otumba Dike, I'm sure you spoke. I think you've spoken before. Okay, so I think we've exhausted our time. We've even eaten extra time. So I'll round up with this. We have to understand the consequence of accepting an electoral fraud. It's almost like having a bull in the China shop. You have someone that has not worked for that doesn't deserve an office, that doesn't deserve money. It's just like somebody that didn't work for money. When he gets it, there's a high chance he's going to abuse it. It's the probability of him abusing it is almost one. So it's common knowledge that people that don't work for money actually spend it carelessly. That's how it is when someone that doesn't deserve office, someone that wasn't voted for, that didn't work to get the votes of the people, someone that didn't bother to come to interviews or talk to the people, someone that has won an election and has still not spoken to the people, has just addressed the people, is actually in charge of these people. So when we cry, he doesn't. Even if he hears, he doesn't listen. When we complain, he doesn't care. All he cares about is him and those that worked for him and those that put him there, him and those that he owes a responsibility, him and those that guided him from coming for interviews and still successfully put him there in Aso Rock. There are a lot of consequences, a lot. And one of the biggest consequences, which scares me a lot, is the fact that it will now be a precedent set. We have someone with forged certificates history, someone with a drug indictment history, someone that has no solid past, someone that has that every single document he has brought out, from his identity to his birth to his education to his candidacy, has question marks, not just question marks, but have been challenged and have been proven to have been mutilated or adjusted or have been a lie. We have that person entering off Aso Rock. If that person successfully enters Aso Rock, stays in Aso Rock, if the judiciary doesn't do its job properly, that person is going to set a precedent for a James Ibori to become president, for Hush Puppy to become president, for Evans the kidnapper to become president. He's going to set a precedent that would never make sense and has never been set in this country. It means I can go and get my certificate from an Akara woman. I can come with NEPA bill certificate and run for the highest office in the land. It means the worst of us will continue to rule the best of us. The consequences are unimaginable. We're just saying, all we're saying is just scratching the surface. There are the background consequences. This is somebody that on a campaign podium said a town hall different from Bala Blue. That word has no meaning. We may joke about it. And uttered slow words repeatedly. We joke about all these things. But it means that person is deciding whether we'll go to war.
It means that person is deciding the value of our currency. It means that person decides whether we'll print money or not. It means that person decides whether we'll get refineries working or not. That person decides who the Inspector General of Police is, determines who the Chief Judge of the country is, determines how even the Senate and the National Assembly operates. That person can decide to say he wants to borrow $3 billion and build a fortress in Aso Rock. That person can decide to collect a loan of $1 billion to go and fight a war in Niger. Meanwhile, we cannot produce electricity. That person can decide to run a pipe from Nigeria to Europe for gas, to sell gas. Meanwhile, we don't even have power to power our country. That person can choose an Ajuri Ngelale to become his presidential spokesman. And Ajuri will almost tell you it is not necessary to run a refinery. It will tell you that you will never make petrol cheaper when you produce. That person will pick an accountant to be your minister of power. He will pick a mechanic to be your finance minister. He will pick a geologist to be your minister of health and take a doctor to the Ministry of Solid Minerals. Those are the consequences of having somebody that we have vetted and said he failed. We have campaigned against. We have begged to step down. We have asked to step down. Those are the consequences. And like Archie said, unless we match their madness with madness, I swear, gentleman did not the work. He not the work. If you go to the market and you speak English inside one, if you go Alaba, go to speak English, they go cheat you. But if you come like say you dey street, you would be the man you are. You'll be treated like the man you are. You present yourself to be. They say dog, not the answer name when outside I call am. And name when you call your dog outside I go call him. You can't name your dog Bingo and somebody will call it Brown and to answer. So I beg Nigerians, let's match. We are matching the madness for madness. The judiciary needs to see that the people don't want this man. They need to see that. They need to understand that we have to. There are two results. One, you support whoever you are supporting, and you met out injustice, and you have that burden on your head. You have that blackmail hanging all over you for the rest of your life. They will continue. You will continue to be a slave to them. Or two, deliver justice based on evidence. I'm not saying pick Peter Obi. Look at the evidence. At least we are all educated. We have all seen these evidences. Look at the evidences set before you and deliver justice. Let's see if a Bola Tinubu that has been dethroned will come and remove you as a justice or retire you as a justice or as a judge. The president decides who you are. If you are an original member of the FCT, your president just chose a former governor of Rivers State, like most presidents have done in the past. Pick people from other states to become your minister. The original residents of FCT can not get a minister of FCT from their own region. We've stripped them of everything. Just someone to manage, not even to manage them. We keep picking people from other states. You pick a governor that just finished 8 years as a governor to come as minister of FCT. So you want him to take a 12th year governorship role because it's almost the same role. Well, thank you all for coming. Ngozi, I don't know if you're still there. Court of Public Opinion, if you are there to give your rounding statement before we close the space, or we can just end the space. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you very much. We hope to see you next Wednesday.